Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
Hatred today proving to be an equal opportunity phenomenon as former basketball star Tim Hardaway's self-described homophobic comments have gotten him removed from his scheduled role in the NBA's All-Star festivities this weekend in Las Vegas. Hardaway apologized yesterday, not necessarily for the homophobia itself, but for revealing it, which he did earlier in the day in two separate interviews, the first with Dan Le Batard on a radio station in Miami. Le Batard challenged Hardaway about what he would do if he had to play alongside a gay teammate.
What could you do? You don't have a recourse. You ask for a trade?
Yeah, or I asked for him to get traded. You know, one or the other. Or if he, you know, something has to give, and I think the majority of the players would ask for him to be traded, or they would want to get traded.
But you'd be trading him to a team where he probably wouldn't be wanted there either, I would imagine.
Right, that is true. Or just buy him out of his contract and let him go.
You know that what you're saying there, though, Timmy, is flatly homophobic, right? It's just it's bigotry.
Well, I hate gay people, so I let it be known. I don't like gay people. I don't like to be around gay people. I don't, I'm homophobic. I don't like it. It shouldn't be in the world for that, or in the United States for it. So yeah, I don't like it.
By the way, if you do not know this, that was not a question asked in a vacuum. This followed the announcement by former NBA player John Amici that he was and is gay.
Kobe Bryant again at the center of controversy, this time for something he said during a nationally televised basketball game. While protesting a ref's call, he used a homophobic slur. Now the league has slapped him with a big-time fine, and David Wright has that story.
That's who the Lakers are going to see now. As the LA Lakers advance to the playoffs, the NBA is fining the team's star player $100,000 for inexcusable homophobic language against a ref.
The comment that I made, even though it was not meant as what is perceived to be, is nonetheless wrong.
Kobe Bryant told ESPN Radio he's appealing the fine, saying he was just frustrated in the heat of the game. But now he's facing heat from gay groups.
And when it comes to homophobia, nothing surprises me.
ESPN's LZ Granderson, an openly gay sports writer, doesn't believe Bryant is homophobic.
He finally apologized, and that means he's doing some listening.
This controversy comes at a time when the NBA was already planning a public service campaign in order to present the league as being more gay-friendly.
All right, everybody, stand by.
In fact, here's a sneak peek at a public service message to be broadcast during the NBA Finals. The Phoenix Suns' Grant Hill taped it the same day Bryant called the ref out.
It's not creative. It's offensive to gay people, and you're better.
Some say Bryant's blunder may spark a healthy dialogue about whether such language is appropriate even for the locker room, let alone the open court.
Kobe does have freedom of speech, but freedom of speech is not freedom from consequences.
Bryant seems to realize that now.
There's a lot of things being said that should not be said.
He's now in full court press doing damage control.
Frank Cholet knew exactly what he was doing when he started heckling Chicago Bulls center Joakim Noah at the free throw line during Sunday night's Game 3 against the Heat.
Noah, because he's a pretty tough defender. He was hurting us on rebounds, so I wanted to go there and specifically, psychologically damage Noah to get him out of the game.
And damage was done, but it was not what Cholet was expecting.
It was just all in fun, and he just turns around and starts screaming at me, and that was kind of threw me off a little bit. Kind of took a little fun out of it.
Cameras were rolling as Noah screamed a homophobic slur at Cholet, who had a seat near the Bulls bench.
Kind of shocked me when he said, what he said. It was uncalled for.
That comment ended up costing Noah $50,000, and it's what everybody is talking about today.
We know there's going to be microphones. We know there's going to be cameras around us, so you just have to be cautious about what you're saying. Just try to control your emotions as much as possible.
They have the right to say what they want to say, and Unfortunately, sometimes, for us, we have to just sit there and take it.
Technical foul on Kobe.
This incident comes just weeks after Lakers star Kobe Bryant was fined $100,000 for uttering a gay slur at a referee.
Your moves are just gay.
And after this recent ad was released by the NBA discouraging such comments.
Sometimes, fans say things that are a little bit overboard, but still, it's on us not to react. If you react, they win.
Am I sexually attracted to underage boys?
Context of White Supremacy, Gus T Renegade.Is in for another program. You'll have to give me a moment. I'm trying to get our guest with us right now. I'm going to play a sound clip to give me a moment to get Mr. Manago on the line with us. Anti-sexual behavior. I know for me this was, out of all the things in Mr. Fuller's code book, where One second. Okay. Out of all the things in Mr. Fuller's code book that widely diverge from typical racist programming, right? What he says about anti-sexual behavior, so-called homosexuality, that I think was the thing that it took the longest for me to connect the dots. And I know I've heard from other folks who've called in the time that we've been on the air, where they too have said that they don't understand and they don't see it as a problem. Even people who say, well, I don't participate in this and I don't want to, but I don't think that this is a racist conspiracy. I don't think that the so-called gay rights movement is an integral aspect of white supremacy. I used to be right. I used to say the same thing. It really took me a while to connect the dots. I'm hoping Mr. Manago will help us grasp so-called gay rights, the new refined weapon, racist man, racist woman. We'll have a quick sound clip, and hopefully I'll be right back with our guest, Mr. Manago. Context of white supremacy. Give me 1 second, please.
This tape a bunch of times. It is so hard for me to watch. Is it hard for you to watch it as well?
Yeah, when I first seen it, it was very hard to watch, but as you keep watching it and you see how they don't have any feelings for anybody. So it was hard, but now I'm dealing with it.
Yeah, okay, so then take me back a little bit. You walk out of the store. Did you have any idea that these guys were waiting outside that store to basically jump and pummel you?
No, I didn't. I was actually on the phone. I was calling my grandma because I needed to ask her some questions. And I come out the store and bam, there it was. I had no clue it was coming.
What were they saying to you? I know they were screaming things that were anti-gay. What were they saying?
Those are things that I wouldn't want to repeat, especially out loud where other people can hear it. They were very harmful words. They hurt my feelings as well.
So then I was surprised, and I fully understand that. That makes a lot of sense to not go ahead and repeat them. But I was surprised to hear that you felt like you shouldn't go forward after being hammered for 30 seconds or more, that the first thing you didn't do was, to run to the cops. Why not?
As I've been telling everyone, everybody handles situations different, and I handle my situations different than other people. I let it blow over. But once it hit viral, and once it hit the news, you want to have your opinion. You want to voice what really happened. You want to have your say. You don't want to keep quiet. You want to let people know how it happened and possibly find out why it happened.
How are you doing now? I mean, it looks like such a brutal beating, but you look like, at least externally, you're doing okay. How are you doing both on the inside and the outside?
I'm doing much better. I really am. But now, as the cases coming toward where they're coming up with arrests, You know, now is the mental part. How do I deal with it from the mental part? So that's why.
And how are you going to deal with it from the mental part?
You know, I actually have a therapist, and me and my therapist are working through it. She's helping me deal with it where I can understand it.
There are a lot of people today who are saying you are incredibly brave. It's a gang, and looked like they were trying to kill you. Do you feel like you're brave, or something else?
You know, I really don't want to say I was brave, but I do feel like I was a stand-up person because I came forth. After everything happened, I came forth. I decided to talk about the situation because, as I said, I want to see other people that have had this happen to them. I want to see them come forward as well. You know, we shouldn't have to hide who we are just to please others.
This is where my son lost his life right here. So what better place to try to put that message, and let me correct that, not try, but put that message out there of how brutal and what hazing is and what it consists of and how it needs to stop.
This was the first time for the champions to be in Orlando, to be at the hotel here where their son was killed a little more than 2 months ago. And it happened right in this area, in a parking lot just outside the hotel. The champions came here for a reason. They said that they wanted to make a statement, and they announced that they would sue the bus company, a company called Fabulous Coaching Lines based in Florida, because they say that the bus driver should have known what was going on, or the company should have known what was happening on its bus. They also learned through the course of an investigation by their attorney that their son may have been gay. They learned that from some of Robert Champion's friends. And Pam and Robert Champion say that this information did take them by surprise.
My husband had to speak this up, but I never considered that. My thing was never consider that at all. It never crossed my mind.
So this was a surprise?
Yes, it was. My son was slated to be the head drum major for school, and he made it drum major last year. And that was his first year being our drum major. And then to be slated to be the head drum major, you know, that could have caused jealousy.
The champions say sexuality may be one of many other reasons that could have come into play into Robert Champion being treated so severely. But this case has caught the attention of some national groups. The National Black Justice Coalition says that the Department of Justice should get involved if sexuality is part of the reason for Champion's beating. But again, Champion's attorney is adamant about the nature of what happened.
FAMU has a 50-year history, a culture in this band of hazing. This is not a hate crime. Did Robert Champion have an alternative lifestyle? Yes. Did that define him? No. Robert Champion was defined by the fact that he followed the rules, that he was a leader in the band, that he was against hazing, that he was a peaceful person, that he was a leader.
I have noted the white people who allege to be against racism, white supremacy, so-called anti-racist, a lot of them, they will talk about what they call white privilege, and then with that, they will talk about people who are not gay, that they're also privileged, and that you have mistreatment of people because they are a person of color, and then you have mistreatment of people who do not engage in heterosexual behavior. And how do you feel that plays into the system of white supremacy?
Well, for one thing, they'll take antidotes. That's one thing they'll always do. You can always find an antidote. In other words, an example. Some black person who is so-called gay or homosexual, lesbian, whatever it is, gets beat up, maybe get killed. Okay? Many people get killed every day for something or another. But the way you looked at me, so I'm going to kill you. People get killed about that. Okay? So you can always find an example. But what they'll do, they'll just sit back and wait for someone to pick out somebody who's homosexual and beat them up because they are homosexual. Okay? Well, basically, these are people that go around and beat up people, period. They don't need much excuse. They're just looking for somebody to beat up. All right? See, so that's not unusual. But here's how shrewd the so-called white supremacist arm of the gay rights movement is. They know that's going to happen. And then when it does happen, they'll say, see, that doesn't happen all day, every day. In fact, where it comes to black people, most black people, has been my experience, coming up in the South. The black male, and I knew some of them, the white supremacists would find out that this black male is a homosexual. That's who he'd hire. The black male who is looking at females, when he comes over there to get hired at the White Hotel, no, we don't want you around here. Absolutely not. But we'll take this black male here who likes for people to take him into the men's room, other males, we'll put him behind the desk.
Now, what do I say to someone who's just come out besides congratulations?
I guess so. You know, it's funny because people have been sending me tweets and messages saying, do I say congratulations for being who you are?
Yes.
You know?
For saying who you are in public.
But I'd have to say at this point, we should say congratulations.
Definitely.
Because it's a milestone. You have to get to a certain point in order to be comfortable enough to do this. And then sometimes you're not that comfortable, so you just need to push yourself to do it.
Right. But any particular reason why now?
Well, it was part of writing the book. It just sort of came out of writing the book, and I didn't say, oh, I'm going to go in and write a book. Someone approached me to write a book. It was supposed to be this little pamphlet about, you know, brush your teeth, shake your boss's hand, have a firm handshake, smile, be the first one in the office.
Oh, how to be successful.
How to be successful.
Wow.
And I started writing it, and I said, you know, there are enough of these books around. You know, who needs me to say that? Mm-hmm. And I started writing about my childhood and who I am, and it became cathartic.
It just started coming out of you. It just started
coming out of me, and so the more I started writing about it, I was nervous, and I could have taken it out at any point. But then, you know, when the student at Rutgers University killed himself,
yes.
I said, leave it in there.
The one who was being observed.
Tyler Clementi, yeah.
Yes, and then they put it out and humiliated the boy.
Yeah, and so I said, leave it in there. Mm-hmm. And because there shouldn't have to be people like him. And if I had someone like me who had chosen to live their lives out and proud, there'd be no need for the Tyler Clementis of the world or for teenagers to want to kill themselves because they're concerned.
Well, that's why what you're doing is worthwhile.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
When they see a successful, gorgeous dude like you who says, listen, this is what I am.
What are you trying to do, Joy?
I'm trying to come on.
Are you hitting on me?
I'm hitting on you. You know, once somebody
Didn't you read the book, Joy?
You know, and give him a promotion and everything. And other white people will come in there and say, what is that Negro doing behind that desk and whatnot? I thought this was a white hotel and whatnot. Yeah, but check him out. He's no danger. He's a plaything. He's all fun and games because he doesn't want to be a man. So you've got no threat, ever, to him. He's no problem. And I have seen that over and over again.
Alrighty. Context of white supremacy. We are back live. I'm still on the grind, trying to get Mr. Manago on the program. Trying to see if I can multitask. Actually, I don't even need to multitask. We lots of footage, clips, media on the anti-sexual assault. Give me one moment so I can free my hands up and not have to do two things at once. This is Tracy Morgan's difficulties with the so-called gay rights white supremacist organizations.
Popular actor and comedian Tracy Morgan's latest stand-up is blowing up into a major controversy and turning out to be no laughing matter. And now Morgan is apologizing. The comedian reportedly went on a vicious homophobic rant. Morgan, who is known to push the envelope for laughs, was performing in front of a packed house at Nashville's Ryman Auditorium. In the middle of the show, he launched into a scathing tirade about homosexuals. A photographer, Kevin Rogers, was in the audience and posted on Facebook some of the things that Morgan reportedly said. Kevin, we're going to get to you in just a moment. First, I want to revisit some of the statements that you said Morgan made during his stand-up. To be clear, we don't have a full transcript of Morgan's remarks, but Kevin posted at one point, Morgan said, quote, "There is no way a woman could love and have sexual desire for another woman. That's just a woman pretending because she hates an effing man." He went on to say if his son was gay, he better come home and talk to him like a man and not, and here he mimicked gay in a high-pitched voice, or he would pull out a knife and stab that little N-word to death. Morgan goes on saying, quote, "He didn't effing care if he pissed off some gays." As many of you know, Morgan is on the cast of the popular NBC show 30 Rock. The irony is 30 Rock received an award from GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Well, GLAAD is calling for Morgan's management to investigate these reports and issued this statement this morning. GLAAD's president says, should they prove true, we call on him to remove these violently anti-gay remarks from his show and send a strong message that anti-gay violence is not something to joke about. The Human Rights Campaign also issued a statement. If these allegations are true, Tracy Morgan must immediately accept responsibility and apologize. His employer, NBC Universal, also must come forward and condemn these atrocious comments. Now, I want to go back to Kevin Rogers. Kevin, you were in the audience there. You heard Tracy Morgan directly. What was your gut reaction?
I was absolutely shocked and amazed at what I was hearing. I knew that I was going to see a comedian that, as you said, does push the envelope, and was expecting to hear, all sorts of different, probably inappropriate humor, but I didn't expect to hear an attack on the gay community.
As I mentioned, Tracy Morgan has apologized, Kevin, so I want to read you his statement. He says, "I want to apologize to my fans and the gay and lesbian community for my choice of words at my recent stand-up act in Nashville. I'm not a hateful person and don't condone any kind of violence against others. While I am an equal opportunity jokester and my friends know what is in my heart, even in a comedy club, this clearly went too far and was not funny in any context." What is your response to that? Is that apology enough?
I greatly appreciate his apology. I only hope that it actually is genuine and that's how he feels. And if that's the case and he shows my community and his fans that he truly is sorry for those remarks and takes content like that from his show, then yeah, I greatly accept his apology.
As you've said, you certainly didn't expect Morgan's act to be clean, but when he said what he said about stabbing his son, if he came home and told him that he was gay, how did that specific remark sit with you?
It had gotten to the point within the rant that I was actually a little numb to everything that was being said. I was still trying to process everything and decide if there was going to be a punchline somewhere or exactly what was I hearing. So to me, it really was just the entire thing really did hurt me. That of course the violent aspect of that comment, I actually even thought at a point, well, maybe he is at least joking about that. Not that that's something to joke about, but that's pretty serious.
And what was the audience response? Were you able to notice were people laughing? Were they booing? What was the response?
As ashamed as I am for the Nashville audience, there was actually a lot of applause during that, and seemed to, with the exception, there were some people that weren't laughing or clapping and seemed to be sitting there in shock, but there were also a lot of people that just really, for lack of a better way of putting it, kind of hooted and hollered. And
did anyone leave?
Throughout his entire performance, there were times that we had noticed that people were leaving. His performance includes a lot of comments about women and his belief in their place in the world.
And what was his demeanor as he started this part of his act? Did his demeanor change, or was it the way it was throughout the whole show?
I could tell that it seemed to go from a joking demeanor to this is a point in my show to where I'm very serious about what I'm saying. It was very forthright. There didn't seem to be any joking involved at that point. It was just, here's my platform.
You posted your feelings, as I said, on Facebook. You also tweeted about it, writing, saw Tracy Morgan in Nashville last night, nothing but hate for the gays. That was what your tweet said. And then you also added, I was very saddened by this. What kind of response have you received online?
It's been kind of crazy. I've received all sorts of support from people across the United States. I've actually also received a little bit of hate, but far, far outweighed by the number of people that are supporting me and wanting to be my friend on Facebook and just patting me on the back and saying thanks and that they really appreciated it. So it's been overall positive, but I never expected on Friday that I was going to be on CNN today.
I'm sure. And I know that before you came on CNN, you actually, according to my producer, you had to actually come out to your mom.
Yeah, it's something that we've never really discussed, and I've always had a feeling that my family knew, but I just wasn't comfortable having that discussion. And then I knew that how things happen, and Nashville is a large city, but it's also a very small community in a way, and I knew that at some point tonight I would be receiving a phone call from my mother saying, somebody called me and saw you on CNN. What's the deal? So I thought, this is a time that I'm really going to have to just step up and make that phone call and say, here, look, this is what's going to happen, and whatever you hear, here's the truth. And she's very supportive and was great, and I love her and my dad very much for the way they've raised me.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for sharing not only your personal story with us, but also what you say happened there in Nashville, and bringing that to our attention as well. And we certainly appreciate you coming on the show and talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you so
All right. Context of White Supremacy back live. Yes. I have not succeeded in getting in touch with Mr. Manago. I'm not sure what happened. We did speak yesterday over on the telephone, and we confirmed for 5 p.m. This evening. I've dialed his cell and his landline and haven't been able to get through. Quite a bummer. He does have quite a few articles where he outlines different ways that he believes many of these white gay rights groups, put that in quotes, gay rights organizations have really went after black males specifically, and he had along with many of the same folks that we talked about on the most recent broadcast with Pam. A lot of these black males, Isaiah Washington, the latest victim, Mr. Roland Martin, Kobe Bryant, long list of black males that they have targeted, Tracy Morgan in there too, and saying how he just does not see the same attack directed at white people. He listed several white people, white men and white women, who have made derogatory comments or jokes directed at so-called homosexuals, anti-sexuals, and GLAAD has not, been out pounding the pavement and demanding that these folks get fired or transferred or whatever the case may be. I will share just some of the titles for different reports if folks want to look, because like I said, I do think he hits it right on the money with what these white people have been doing. And this is going all the way back to 2008 when they had the election in California, the Proposition 8 to ban quote-unquote gay marriage, and they tried to blame this on black people. And he has an article, it's titled Gays in Los Angeles Indict Blacks and Deliver Fake Anthrax. It's from November of 2008, right after the election. And he says, this is a direct quote, he says, the black gay movement doesn't look like a black community affirming movement, but instead like a group of co-opted black folks running behind a white homosexual agenda. And I was very interested to hear him explain exactly what he means when he says a white homosexual agenda. He goes on to say that this exacerbates anti-sexual homosexual attitudes and now anti-homosexual marriage perspectives in the black community. This is all, again, in the report. Gays in Los Angeles indict blacks and deliver fake anthrax, November 2008. Looking at some of the other reports he has, one is getting at the root of black homophobic speech, and that's from this month, February 2012. This report is in response to everything that has transpired with Roland Martin, black male suspended indefinitely from CNN. In this report, he writes, contrary to the prevailing wisdom in America, black people, black men specifically, are not more homophobic than other groups of people. But black men's male insecurity, a more accurate term for what we are really discussing, does have a root cause. White supremacy's emasculation of black men and its twisted construction of black masculinity as inherently violent, predatory, disposable, and dangerous. And he does use the term white supremacy. Black men, from the very first moment they were brought to this country, were criminalized and stigmatized. Black virility was prized because it could ensure that there would be more slaves, but it was also something to be feared. Black men Black men watched their fathers, sons, uncles, cousins, and friends castrated, whipped, raped, and beaten, and drawn and quartered, often to break black men and bend them to the will of white people. But no one wants to talk about that. No one even pays lip service to this fact because white people are tired of talking about racism. But they never seem to have a problem lambasting the behavior of black men that's a direct result of this racist oppression. They claim their agenda is the new civil rights movement and say flagrantly untrue and insulting things like gay is the new black, which essentially reinscribes the false notion of black inferiority. That's from, I'm just reading a sample, that's from the report, Getting at the Root of Black, quote-unquote, homophobic speech. That's from February 2012, Mr. Cleo Manago. He has, like I said, several other articles. He writes a lot, one of them, Black or White, Kids on Race at CNN. Very interesting material there. And his other report, GLAAD's Blackophobia and the War on Black Men. That is also from February of this year and dealing directly with the issues surrounding Roland Martin and his indefinite suspension from CNN. Again, a little bit sad we couldn't get him on the program. Miscommunication, perhaps, could be racist interference, myriad of things. But he was on Black Talk Radio Network with Mr. Scotty Reed. He was a guest on their program just this year, and they touched on a lot of the issues that I wanted to address on this program, and particularly these so-called gay rights groups looking for black people, hunting down black males especially, and saying that, oh, you're homophobic, and sometimes they don't even call them homophobic. Sometimes they will say that these folks are racist. I have heard that repeatedly. White so-called gay people saying that you are racist if you say something or do something that they deem to be offensive to so-called homosexuals. Racist man, racist woman on the grind. Let's see, I will try to figure out the best way to manage things. I see a lot of folks tuned in. I'm not sure if you all would rather share your views on this topic. do see a lot of folks on the phone lines. If you are interested in sharing your thoughts, I guess we could do that. This was supposed to be our day for the compensatory broadcast. Perhaps this is a lesson. We should not have rescheduled the compensatory call-in program, because that was what we were supposed to be doing today, this evening at this very moment. If folks are interested to share, that's something we've been doing. I want to remain dedicated. If you all want to share your thoughts on this topic, we can certainly do that. If folks really were just all about hearing what Mr. Manago had to share, life is rough. Definitely can't have expectations too high regarding non-white people, because things can get real ugly on the plantation quickly. Before I do anything, I will definitely, all the articles, I will post the articles. If you all give me a moment, I will put the articles either in the chat room and or on my Facebook page, the different articles that Mr. Manago has written about this, what he terms white homosexual agenda. Yes, I'll put them in the chat room, links so you all can check them out, and or I will put them on my Facebook page. If you all can give me a moment, and I will do so. I do see Mr. Scotty Reed. If you have the time and or interest, if you would like to give folks a summary of some of the comments that you heard, what Mr. Manago shared when he was a guest on your program, that might be cool. At least we can get some samples. You can give us the link, and folks can go check it out and hear when he was a guest on the Black Talk Radio Network. Can check out the archives and hear what he had to say on that program with Mr. Reed. I did want to make sure we got in. We will be on the air tomorrow evening. Rain check. We had a program that did not go down as it should have, with a suspected racist female, Dr. Lisa Lindquist Dorr. She is an author and professor. Her book on white women, rape, and the power of race. She's talking specifically about Virginia, but she was supposed to be on the program a couple weeks back. We got everything corrected. She will be on the program tomorrow evening. The program time is 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. White woman, definitely look forward to having white people on the program. 8th area of activity, sexual intercourse. Her whole book is about that, and how white people and white men manipulate fears, anxieties, false threats that a black male wanted to do something to a white person, white woman specifically, and how that has been used and manipulated. The interesting thing that I will say about her book is that she points out how they did not have as many, and that's certainly a relative thing, but they didn't have as many of these lynchings of black males around accusations that a white woman was raped. And she goes into details about how white people in Virginia during the 20th century, they wanted a more refined form of racism. They didn't think it was very civilized to be lynching black males out in the middle of the street at noon. And so they wanted to handle this sort of thing in a different manner. Very interesting details. Still the practice of racism. Very clear about that. Still the practice of white supremacy, but just in a different form, a more refined form than what was happening in other southern states at that time. But she will be on the program tomorrow. Looking forward to more details. I will have the clip if you want to prepare. I would say check out To Kill a Mockingbird. Excellent illustration of what her book is all about, and just the power of white people to come together and stomp out black people, the threat, the accusation, just anything implying a black person did something that they weren't supposed to do, especially relating to a black male and a white woman. But that will be tomorrow. We actually will have back-to-back white women on the program. One of these so-called white anti-racists, Olivia Straub. I think I'm saying her last name correctly. It is S-T-R-A-U-B, Olivia Straub. She'll be on the broadcast this Monday afternoon. She is, in the vein of Timothy Wise and Jane Elliott and these white people who claim that they are not racist. She will be on the broadcast this Monday afternoon, a little bit earlier, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. A listener, I think, has had an ongoing dialogue with Ms. Straub and talking about, I think one of the things that they mentioned was, I think Ms. Straub might have been trying to imply that black people can be racist too. And and the listener, she was having dialogue with her. I think this was email. I think they were just shooting messages back and forth online. But the listener, non-white listener, was telling this white woman, you know, that is just not true. It's not accurate what you're saying. And the white woman was coming back with buckets and buckets of words and trying to convince her that, oh yeah, black people can be racist too, and non-white people, they can be racist too, and trying to explain how this is, you know, how this would work. That will be on the program this Monday. We should be back on Tuesday as well. Big Kel, I think some listeners are familiar with his YouTube channel. Big Kel, he has many videos all about racism, white supremacy. I think folks have put it on my Facebook page and emailed it to me. He has a video, excellent illustration of white people working as a unit, a cohesive terrorist team. And this is, I think, from 2010, but it was a black male enforcement officer on the East Coast, and it was snowing, and there was a big snowball fight, and the black male, he gets out, enforcement officer now, he gets out and tries to, you know, restore order, stop throwing snowballs, calm down, stop all that, and these white people start pelting him with snowballs. Total terrorists start pelting him with snowballs. They don't listen to him. Like, you know, this nigger is not going to tell us what to do. You just, if you've seen 48 Hours, you're just a nigger with a badge, and that doesn't mean anything to us. And so they keep pelting him with snowballs. They're not listening to him. He goes to arrest one of these white guys, and boy, I mean, you get to see the white team in action. They are getting his badge number. Boom, you're going to pull a gun out on us? What? Okay. Boom, boom. Man, they go to work. He has an excellent video, and he breaks it down. He stops it, gives you the still frame. Even beautiful moment, he shows this black male has a gun. Again, he's an enforcement officer. This is a police officer getting out and telling citizens, you know, stop doing this, trying to give them directions about what they should and should not be doing. Not only did they ignore his requests, his orders, really, they have no fear. This is an armed officer. They are not afraid at all. It's like they're challenging him. You're going to shoot me? You're going to shoot? I'm a white man. I'm a white woman. You're going to shoot me out in broad daylight? You, a black person, a nigger with a badge, you're going to shoot me? Please. I mean, it's like that's the last thought on their mind, to be afraid of a black person with a gun under any circumstances. Excellent video, and he has several others breaking down the workings of racism, white supremacy. He'll be on the program on Tuesday evening, and then Wednesday, Kamali Academy, Samori Kamara. He's been a guest on the program before. He has phenomenal homeschool for black children, independent school, all black students. Folks have invested in his effort. Phenomenal. We've even invested. We got Admitted Racist to invest $100. He got the money. He will be on the program this Wednesday, and he should be bringing along some of their students. So we will get to hear some young people and see, you know, what they understand about racism, white supremacy, and what great things they're working on at Kamali Academy this Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And I think we might even have some of the parents on the program as well to talk about how they went through the process of removing their child from the killing fields, the educational institutions of racist man and racist woman, how they found out about the academy and what the transition has been like, any changes that they've noticed in having their children in what I suspect is a immensely more healthful academic environment. But that'll be this Wednesday. I know it's a ton of listeners out there who are parents. If you have your child in the regular racist academic setting, make sure you tune into the program on Wednesday. Seriously consider different alternatives for your child. We've consistently talked about what happened at Miramonte Elementary in California. Whole staff gets transferred. These allegations and arrests, charges and allegations of teachers molesting non-white children. I think Dr. Phil had some of the students on the program this weekend, and they were all non-white, which is exactly what I said they had to be. You can go online and get the demographics. I called the school, but they only had 2 white students enrolled as of 2010, so it had to be non-white students. They don't even have white students there to rape and molest. So just keep that in mind. I know we got a lot of folks who listen in who have children. Really keep that in mind. Look out and see if they have alternative black schools, black independent schools in your area. I know they have a ton of these in Atlanta, California, the East Bay area. They have these options. Check those out. And even homeschooling as well, if you have the time, and look at that as well. I told one listener who had some apprehension about homeschooling and wondering if they were up for the challenge. Hey, if you ever feel like the homeschooling is not working out, racist man and racist woman will always have a desk waiting for your child. Never fear. You can always send your child back to the racists. Jerry Sandusky and company do not turn down potential victims' students. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you're going to do homeschooling and you're nervous and you don't know if you are equipped to adequately educate your child, or if you're nervous about if you're sending your child to an independent or thinking about sending your child to an independent black school, just keep that in mind. If you don't think it's working out, if it's not going the way you want, you can always send your child back to white people. Alrighty. I will check the phone lines and see if folks want to share. The number, if you are interested in sharing, 760-569-7676. And the code is 564-943#. If you're on that line, it's *6. *6 if you have a question, and if you're on the TalkShoe line, it's *8 if you're on the TalkShoe line. I see Pam did dial in. Pam, are you there, Pam?
Yes, I am. I really am sorry that your guest wasn't able to make it. Did you say he was going to reschedule?
Have not had any dialogue or communication with him since yesterday, so I have no idea.
Okay, hopefully you'll be able to, reschedule with you. I just wanted to share a thought I've been having, about the last show you and I did together and today's topic on homosexuality, what I would call the homosexual agenda against the black male, because that's what I'm seeing it as, and I always advise people, strip away the human rights BS and then ask yourself, what are they really trying to do? Like when they go across the world and they claim that they're attacking sovereign nations for human rights issues. Just strip away the human rights message and ask yourself, what are they really up to? What are they really about? The thought that I had was, was this, and maybe you guys can let me know what you think about this. I see homosexuality, the homosexual agenda against the black male, as one side of the black male castration neutralization coin. But then I see that, to me, the other side of the black male castration neutralization coin is interracial sex with white females. Because if you think about it this way, or at least the way that I look at it is, what is more effeminizing and emasculating than a black male dominated by the system of white supremacy being dominated by the female of his male oppressors? A female who is also a white supremacist and who is more powerful than the black male. So if you could imagine that not only are you being dominated by the white male, you're being dominated by the white female. And to me, there seems to be nothing more emasculating than a man being dominated by the woman, the female of his enemy. So to me, those two things, even though they come about in different ways, I think they have the same effect. I think they still result in black male castration and neutralization, and one may open the door to the other. Black male that's intimately sexually involved with white females may not be that much of a leap for him to become intimately involved with white males. As a matter of fact, if you look at a lot of scenarios, it's the white male that often introduces the black male to the white female, and will sit there and watch and masturbate while the black man is having sex with a white female. So I think the two are intricately linked. I thought sometimes even if you look at it the other way, a black male who is sexually conflicted and confused about his sexuality, having sex with men, may find that being with non-black females, particularly white females, to be more soothing, more secure, more, safer, because that white female doesn't challenge his masculinity in a way that a black woman would. And what I mean by that is, if you're a black man with a black woman, there's no question about what you're doing. Whereas with a white female, there are many secrets that you can have. I think you can have secrets with anybody, certainly. But I do believe those two things are linked. And I believe that's one reason that they're pressing homosexual sex. At the same time, they're pressing interracial sex with the white female on the black male. The second thing I just wanted to share, and you guys can let me know what you think about that. The second thing I just wanted to say quickly is we had planned to do a book on this because this agenda is so widespread and so deliberate. Then we kind of hesitated because we said this could cause some problems if people started to read it. So that being said, I think even though this topic really kind of disgusts me, to be honest with you, I think it's imperative that we tackle it anyway. And the thing that I'm saying to all the listeners is we need your support. If we're going to continue to do books, we need your support. If you want to continue to have COWS programs, Gus needs your support. And it's just like what Brother Leo Muhammad said today on the COWS. He said, we don't ask the white man what he's going to do with the $400 we spent on a pair of Nikes that's made in a third world sweatshop that uses child labor. But we won't send $5 to a cause we say we believe in. I think even, and I know money is tight, so I'm not pressuring you to buy anything. I'm just saying if you can buy something, buy something. If you can donate something, donate something. Dr. Baruti's got books. Mr. Fuller has books. Dr. Welsing has books. We say the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, he has CDs, DVDs, wonderful stuff. We say we really want to be counter-racist. We want to support the cause. Well, you know what? We got to start putting our money where our mouth is. And I'm talking about me, too. And it's also a spiritually powerful thing to put your money and time where you say your beliefs are. You start to make yourself more powerful because that's a form of self-respect, is to back up what you say you believe in. That's very self-empowering and very self-respecting. So we're still, our publishing company is still collecting donations to send books to the students of Kamari Academy. And like I say, I'm not putting anybody down. I'm not saying that I do any better than you do. However, I am saying that the more involved you get, the more empowered you become. And also, you've created a spiritual energy that we need right now. Just think about all the black people out here doing one little thing, saying something important, donating $1 to something you believe in. I mean, that's a spiritually powerful synergy that we really need. So I just wanted to share that, and I'll mute my line and listen to what everybody else has to say.
I'm getting Mr. Reed, the two people on the talk show line. I'm going to get you. I just wanted to ask really quick, because you said that you all were considering the co-authors, Trojan Horse Press. You all are looking at or considering this book on so-called homosexual activity, anti-sexual activity, but you said that you all were thinking that it could present some problems. What problems do you think doing a book on this could create?
Well, honestly, one of the authors, showed some hesitation, and I don't consider it cowardice, some hesitation in that if, this is a thing that is much more significant than I ever knew it was. Just in the last week and a half, I'm beginning to understand how seriously important and how serious the white supremacists are about neutralizing the black male via homosexuality. And so what we meant by that and what was expressed to me was, now you realize that if people start listening to this and start actually taking this message in, they're going to target you. And I said, well, and not just me, anybody else involved. And so, honestly and truly, my reaction was, okay, wait a minute, hold on, let me see, am I really committed to this? Because it's easy to have a false sense of bravado and talk tough and all that stuff, but I'm not tough. And I acknowledge that. I need to get tougher, but I'm not tough. I just, So sometimes you have to really ask yourself, just how committed are you? How serious are you? And so part of it is, for me personally, I'm a little burned out. I'm just a little bit burned out. I'm cool, But, you get to those things where you just feel like, okay, But also, I did think about that, and I did kind of say, well, let me think. But at the overwhelming, I listened to your program, Gus, on with the author, the white male author that did the book on Accountable. What's his name? Jeffrey Dahmer.
Are you there? Oh.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was me.
Okay. Yeah, I listened to the show, the program you did on Jeffrey Dahmer. I was listening to that today. And again, more information, more puzzle pieces coming into place. And so after I listened to your guest earlier today, Brother Leo Muhammad, and what he said, was really inspiring. And it just made me feel like, okay, either you're going to do what you think you should do or you're not going to do what you think you should do. So now reconsidering it, because I think it really is important. But I think it's so important that they don't want it to be talked about. Not really. Not to say that anything we do is going to be so significant or more significant than anybody else's. But that's what I meant, was you got to be real, you got to, to me it's like, this is such a serious assault, and they're very serious about it. So I just don't underestimate the people that we're dealing with. I just don't underestimate them. At the same time, what choice do you have? If you feel there's something that you need to do and you don't do it, then they've won. So I guess what I'm saying is something's going to be done. A book will be done. And that's what I meant by problems. It's just a catch-22. If you're really successful, you're going to have problems. And if you're not successful, that's going to be a problem. And what I mean by successful is spreading the message and people actually listening and maybe reaching more people than you ever thought you would. That's successful, but that brings problems. But it's better than not being successful. So, do you know what I mean? I guess you should know, because you're on the air almost every day. So I guess I think maybe you can relate to what I'm saying.
Wow.
Our people are very serious about not being very serious. Meanwhile, white people are very serious about playing hardball against us. And this hardball is called genocide.
I can definitely relate. Absolutely. I don't know if folks, if they want to respond to what you laid out. Mr. Reed, your line is open. I think Blacker called in as well. Stop playing on my phone. I've noticed he will call in and get a hand up, and then it'll disappear before I get an opportunity to get to it. Stop playing on my phone, Blacker. Scotty Reed, founder of the Black Talk Radio Network. Your line should be open. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir. Good to hear from you.
Can I be heard?
Good evening.
Yeah. Hi. I was calling in to just ask if you had heard any updates about this Brandon White, the gay black male young man who was attacked in Atlanta by those other males, and if you had any recent information on that.
I haven't seen anything in the last few days. I'm checking right now. Yeah, please share.
Well, you mentioned that I had interviewed Cleo Manago. I've actually interviewed him a couple of times, but I interviewed him about the Roland Martin thing. But this issue with the Brandon White came up as well, and he talked about how GLAAD was now going to make him a poster child. We talked about that and how, you know, they'll use blacks, but then at the same time they attack them. So, I mean, that's nothing new. But he expressed concern that the young men who allegedly attacked him would be facing hate crimes. And it just surprised me that he said that he thought, you know, that he seemed to be more concerned about the young men that attacked him getting 40, 50 years, and you know, saying that, you know, that's just not justified in this case. Yes, what they did was wrong in beating this young man, but now there's apparently a gay, and I think they're black, I could be wrong, a gay organization called Change Atlanta, and they're coming out saying that Brandon White lied about the nature of the attack. And I do have an audio clip I could share with you if you'd like me to about that recent information. It's a news report from CBS out of Atlanta.
You can, like, play it? You can play the audio?
Yeah, you should be able to hear it the way I have my sound system configured. I should be able to share the audio over the line with you.
Let's hear it.
Okay. And in just a second, let me go up on the volume.
New tonight, gay rights activists have tough questions about the brutal beating of a young man that went viral on the internet.
Those activists who stood behind Brandon White after the beating believed White was attacked because he's gay. But tonight, they revealed some new details about the motive behind the attack to CBS Atlanta's Tony McNary.
Well, guys, as you know, this case made national headlines. The video beating went viral before the victim, Brandon White, came forward. Now, tonight, some of those gay rights activists who stood behind White and helped search for the men accused of beating him and now say it was not a hate crime. They say the motive was revenge.
Brandon needs to come forward and make his wrong right.
Devin Ward is with Change Atlanta, a gay rights group. Ward and other members of Atlanta's gay community were among the first to speak out against the brutal beating seen on this video.
In the beginning, we thought this was a random attack because Brandon was gay or because of his sexual orientation.
The three men appeared to wait outside a grocery store in Atlanta's Pittsburgh community and then attacked 20-year-old Brandon White while yelling gay slurs at him. Ward and other members of the community stood behind White when he spoke out about the attack for the first time.
I have never seen one of those guys before. I've gone to that store plenty of times.
Several days after the attack, police arrested Dorian Morgan, Christopher Kane, and Darrell Williams. White told everyone he didn't know his attackers. That statement White made is now under scrutiny.
We were all duped, and it's a shame. It's a bitter shame.
Gary Nichols says he has since found out White does know some of the men who attacked him.
Brandon was basically agitating these young men about personally exposing them for being DL gay or having some type of DL gay down on a down low, possibly gay.
And Nichols says the men who attacked White know him and were after a video that's supposed to be on White's phone. You see one of the men grab it.
There's a video that was on Brandon's cell phone. And that's why the cell phone was a target. You know, they didn't just beat him up because he was gay.
Those who initially stood behind White now have doubt that this was a hate crime.
There was some prior actions between him and these other young men, and also he really does know who these guys are. He really knows who these guys are, and I just feel like he absolutely lied to us.
Okay, we tried to contact Brandon White through his attorney, but I have not received a response. Atlanta police say no matter the motive, a crime still took place. Live in the newsroom, Tony McNary, CBS.
Okay, was you able to hear that clearly, Gus?
Yes, sir.
And, I mean, and I talked about this, we had this conversation right here on the Cows before, and I told you the story and shared with the listeners the story about my personal experience with gay black males and growing up where I live right now, and how this young man, you know, was always being picked on And then, you know, when I became friends with him and started speaking to him about, you know, just different stuff, and I asked him, I said, well, why they always picking on you, man? Why they always jumping on you? And he said, he was like, he didn't know, but they'll be knocking on my window at night. And I just think it's just pretty interesting that the same thing is happening in this story, that this young man was attacked because these guys was on the down low, and he probably had video performing sex acts on them. And you know, the way GLAAD is going after that, they asking for hate crime charges, and that just really, you know, that can really put you behind bars a very, very long time, as opposed to just, you know, assault charges. And so, you know, Cleo Manago had spoke out on that and saying he didn't think that hate crime charges, or he didn't agree that hate crime charges should be filed. And I was hoping, you know, that he was going to be on the program tonight to see if he had heard this new information. But it's just pretty interesting, you know, in my experience, that when I see people bullying gay people, it sometimes make me think, you know, well, you know, why you picking on him like that? And, you know, because of what the other guy had told me, you know, about these same guys would then be trying to solicit him to come out and have sex with him at night. It's very interesting.
Mr. Scotty Reed, Black Talk Radio Network founder. That information just came out within the last, like, 3 days. Is that correct?
This is dated, came out yesterday.
Okay. Man, all I can say is that clip where Mr. Fuller is talking about that racists are so shrewd that they will sit around and just wait for this sort of thing to happen so that they can use it. I have to conclude, because they had Brandon White on CNN. He did like a 7-minute interview with Soledad O'Brien. He was on several times, major news networks. Now, if CNN is not going back in to correct that, because you are supposed to make corrections, right? New York Times, they have a correction section. When they put out something that's wrong, they are supposed to make an effort to come back and correct that, to let people know we made an error. If they're not going back with the same zeal, the same intensity, whoops, wait a minute, maybe we didn't give you all the correct information, I would have to assume this is white supremacy racism right before your eyes. I would have to assume, I would have to suspect white people probably knew there was more to the story than what they said from the beginning. I cannot give them benefit of the doubt that they didn't know about this just came out. I cannot give white people benefit of the doubt on that. They will look to use these sort of incidents to promote their agenda. Said, oh, black people, see how homophobic they are? I said from the very beginning when I heard about this, how many times do black people assault other black people every day, worldwide, and white people feel it's so important that they need to stop and go run to the area where the black people are to report on black people beating up or harming another black person? Who cares?
I mean, sure, it'll make the local news, but like you just said, this was turned into a national story. You know, I mean, I could go to the local paper and read about, you know, different assaults and stuff like that of different ethnic groups, but they made a national case out of this, and GLAAD featured him on their website. And, you know, even if, I mean, just looking at it from a news perspective, if they were just going off of the information given to them by Brandon White, I wouldn't necessarily call that incorrect information if they were reporting what he said. But I agree with you that now that, you know, you got this group called Change Atlanta, which builds itself as a gay rights organization, is now saying that, you know, there's evidence that suggests this young man lied on these other young men, then I think that they should report that with the same zeal that they reported the first story.
Yeah, I agree. And this is, you know, as
I doubt if it happens. I doubt if they do, though.
As a victim of white supremacy, I'll just say this really quick. I have to assume, because white people I mean, this is CNN. We're not talking about some Mickey Mouse operation, volunteers. Right. This is CNN. Headquarters is in Atlanta. I'm quite certain they know about going out to investigate, double check your facts, double check your sources. Is this credible information? I cannot, and this is just me. I'm not saying what you all have to do. For me, I do not give them benefit of the doubt. I assume they probably knew that information when they ran with this story and had him on 3, 4, how many other times they had Brandon White on. I have to assume that they probably knew that information, that they were just purposely withholding information to practice white supremacy. I could be wrong. Maybe they didn't know, but as I said, I don't give white people benefit of the doubt on that one.
Now, I'm at GLAAD's website, and I just did a search on Brandon White, and they have not reported this new information. The last post that they have is of February the 21st. Second suspect in Brandon White attack surrenders to Atlanta police. Then they had another post on the 9th, 2 of 3 suspects identified in attack of Brandon White in Atlanta. And let's see, on the 8th, the day before, GLAAD commends Brandon White for telling his story. And I mean, I'm looking at several stories here. I'm a one. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 stories within the same month. And so it'd be interesting to see if they report on this, if they'll post this information on their website, which I doubt they will.
Scotty?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Pam. Thank you so much, because you know what? I wouldn't even have thought to look and see what happened with that story, because I could hardly stand to listen to it. So, you know, thanks for providing that information. You know what I think it is? I think it's the universe. I think, not to get all, you know, woo on anybody, but I think that there's going to be assistance. I believe the story coming out, those black male homosexuals that came out with it, the fact that we're listening to it, I believe it's all part of the spiritual warfare. And sometimes, once in a while, we're going to get a lot of help. And I think right here and there, just to find out that was a bogus story. And I'm going to send an email to people. You know, if I'm going to try to remember to send an email to people to spread the message that story was bogus. And I think that was just one for us. You know, we scored the point in this homosexually charged war.
I have downloaded the video, and I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel, because from my experience, sometimes these type of stories have a tendency to disappear.
Oh yeah, right. I'm on your website right now. As a matter of fact, I'll keep the page open and wait for you to download it. Yeah. And I just signed up. I've been meaning to do that. So okay.
Blacker, we had a caller in the Atlanta area. I wanted to get his line open. Blacker, are you there?
Yes, sir. This is me.
Good to hear from you, sir. Thank you for dialing in.
Yeah, I'm sorry for playing on the phone. Actually, what it was, I got knocked off a couple of times. But, but I'm good to go now. I can say peace to Scotty Reed. I've been checking up on you a lot, sir. And Pam, you know, I always keep in touch with you, sister.
Hey, Blacker.
Greetings.
Oh yeah, I'm still waiting on answers for that question. I answered you a little while ago in email, but we'll keep it in email.
I answered it.
Okay. Okay. I want to switch gears for a second. Well, actually, it's not switching gears. Maybe just change the sides of the street. What I've been noticing as of late here in my area, the Atlanta area, is not so much. In fact, you know, I would even go so far as to say, male homosexuality, black male homosexuality, seems like it's falling by the wayside, because the women are just absolutely. I mean, they are just trying to play catch up from years and years of being left behind. It is just nothing but gay females all over the place. And I know it's a fad. It's nothing anybody's being born with over here, because it's like a fad. And we have stud groups and stud clubs and stud magazines and all kind of stud carrying on. I'm trying to, and I just don't know because I'm not seeing it anywhere on the news. And even after that dude got beat up downtown, you still have never heard anything about it. But at work, everybody's wondering just what's going on with the females coming up. And I was just wondering if anybody had any insight.
I will comment on that. I think we discussed that also on the cows, or either in the group, the cows, and I think it's a complex situation. I don't think it's one thing that we could point to. I think a lot of it has to do with culture here in America. I think that with people who are in control of the media, they have presented that as being acceptable, or they have said things like, come up with all this scientific terminology talking about gender confusion or whatnot, or like you might be born in a male's body but have a female's mind or something like that. But I also think that it could be biological when you look at all of the drugs that they put in the food, all the hormones and stuff like that. So I think, because I do see a lot, and the same thing is going here in Charlotte. I mention that every time I go to Charlotte. I live in a suburb outside of Charlotte, but I go to Charlotte for various reasons, and that's all I see. Now, well, I'm not even going to say just Charlotte. Right here in this little town, that I live in, is probably less than 5,000 people. I see it here too, especially with black females. I see it a lot, and I'm seeing that. I don't know is once you. Yes.
I'm sorry, but I'm familiar with that area. Is that little town? That little town would happen to be Kannapolis, would it?
No, it's Mount Holly.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, on the other side of Charlotte. But I see it a lot. I don't get to go to Gastonia much. I don't have any reason to really go there. But I see it in the little town that I live in, and I see it a lot in Charlotte. I mean, a whole lot. And I'm seeing some of these people, and I'm like, some of these females that they actually seem to have, I don't know if it's because they have been playing that role for so long that they appear to be masculine, but I'm like, if I didn't know, if I wasn't experienced as I was experienced, as in being able to identify, what's what, then they really do look, some of them really do look like males, and then that makes me think it's something in the food.
Yes. Well, like I said, they have a whole culture here. It's called stud culture, and I'm pretty sure it's everywhere. And it's been going on for a while, I'm sure, but now it's just really popular where they have the groups and even a couple of magazines here. You can even look online. I think it's called Stud Magazine, or you can Google Stud. I'm sure you'll find it. But we seem to be ground central. It seems like it starts here and radiates out. And it's so common. So nobody even gives it a second look.
Yeah, my daughters, they're both out of, well, I have 3 daughters, one still in high school, but the other 2, they've told me, that it's quite common when they were in high school, said a number of females have tried to hit on them, and even one of their little friends, they used to come to our house, now she's gay, and everything, and it is. I just feel it's just, I don't know if they're just more out front with it now and not so much in the closet or what, but I agree with you. It does seem to be an increase.
I could piggyback on to what you said, Scotty. I agree with you. I think it's a lot of different reasons. Like you mentioned, hormones in the food. I think that we'll never know how much, what role that plays. I mean, how big a role that plays. The culture, the open, the promotion of it in the media. I mean, it was a time not too long ago where every time you turned around, they had female, women and females kissing each other. And so I think they've done a lot to, and it's not just black females. You know, you see it throughout the white female population. Also, this casualness. It's almost like it's hip now, and that if you haven't had a female lover, you're not hip. So a lot of it is the culture, the decadent culture we're in, and the promotion of the abnormal as normal or even desirable. But I'd like to add one thing, in my opinion, regarding black women or black women who are practicing homosexuality. I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe the vast majority of black women who are engaging in homosexual activity are really homosexuals. I like to call them situational lesbians, and I believe that the abnormal circumstances that many black people are in, black women are in, black men, black families and communities, we're in a very abnormal situation where the male-female imbalance is way off. There are a lot of households where the black women are the dominant ones. They're the breadwinners and the heads of the households. Well, it's always been portrayed as a masculine role. Now you've got the girls growing up in a household where the women are the ones taking care of business. The men may be absent for whatever reason. You know, the reason is white supremacy for the most part. But the men are largely absent or not really participating in many of these homes. So the women play the role of male and female. They play the mother and the father. They're dominant. And if you try to come in one of those homes where the female has assumed the role of the breadwinner of the one that's dominant, you come into that home as a man and see if you're going to have any kind of control or any play in that household. So the children are growing up watching this. And I think you can see the flip side of that is a lot of the boys are becoming more feminized. They're becoming more passive. I strongly believe in the yin and the yang. So if something happens to a culture, to a group of people, where the sex roles are tampered with, you're going to see the women become imbalanced and the men become imbalanced. And I do believe that what you're looking at is part of that yin-yang, that abnormal circumstance that we find ourselves in. And I think one more reason, and I think I've watched this for a long time. I'm sorry, you want to say something? No, okay. I've watched this for a very long time. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm about to post that video. You heard it starting up. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. And the one last thing I was going to add to that was the devaluation of the black female. Not placing blame, but I'm a black female, and I know this is true. This has been my experience. I've watched the devaluation of the black female for a very long time, and it's been happening since slavery. And I believe that the more dark-skinned a black female is, the more likely, not always necessarily, but the more likely she is to be judged as less feminine anyway, and more masculine-looking just because she's dark. Now, if you've got a black female because she's got short hair or she doesn't fit a beauty standard or she's dark, already being judged as less feminine, that's something that's very difficult to fight. So your perception is, and I know this is personally, even though I'm not dark-skinned, if people perceive you as not feminine and not desirable or whatever it is, you are going to try to adapt in such a way that you can psychologically survive. And so there's power in assuming the masculine role, particularly when you come from dangerous environments. To be feminine is to basically set yourself up as prey in some environments. So I think a lot of these young ladies, these young girls, have put on the male persona because they want to feel safe and they want to put on a persona of I'm not to be messed with. They're really afraid. So, and they're already being judged as less attractive. They're already being judged as less feminine. They see it on TV. They never, ever see themselves uplifted by black people nor white people. If you look at the television, at the movies, I don't care if it's a black-made movie, I don't care if it's a Hollywood production, the black female is always the dark-skinned black female is always in a degraded position. Our girls are watching this, and it seems that we're pretending that this isn't happening. And so I think that plays a lot into it. If I've already been judged as unfeminine, if I've already been judged as undesirable to men, why would I torture myself by pursuing male relationships? Now, obviously, the majority of dark, brown-skinned women, whatever, don't necessarily go that route. But I think there's a certain percentage that say, I'm going to get validated however I can. And if it means becoming a homosexual to get validated, to feel attractive, to feel desirable, that's what I'm going to do, because at the first and foremost of my mind is I'm going to survive psychologically. And they're just basic needs that people have. And one of those needs is validation and companionship. So I think a lot of these young black females are trying to be validated, and they're not getting validation from us. They're not getting validation from black men overall. They're not getting validation from the media. So I think that a lot of it is a desire to disconnect from males because of psychological dangers of trying to be something that no one actually perceives you as being in the first place. So, that's my 2 cents.
If I may piggyback on that, just from, of course, this isn't scientific, but from my observance, most of the butch, I think that's the phrase that they use or the term that they use, the masculine one in these relationships do seem to be, from what I've seen, darker skinned females, and
that's right.
I wouldn't necessarily call them ugly. But then, when you have a corporate, racist media that teaches them that black is ugly anyway, then, that just only adds to why, they may not feel good about themselves and seek validation elsewhere. And you mentioned something about, the black male being absent, and I believe that is due to white supremacy, primarily the number 1, 2 drug war. How much of that do you think is because there is a shortage of available males?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for adding that. I think that was the thing that I meant to add and forgot. I mean, people are going to adapt to their environment. If you're in an environment where there's only hog maws and leftover parts of the animal that the slave master didn't want to eat, you're going to adapt to that, and you're going to turn that into a delicacy. You're going to try. People are going to adapt to a shortage of whatever it is that they have. If you have a shortage of food, guess what? People start to eat plants, insects, leaves. So I believe that the shortage of black males has a lot to do with it. The perception that what are black women told, especially young ones? You'll never get married. You'll never have a man. So what I'm saying is a lot of them are reacting to their environment that is telling them that, number one, if they're dark, they're not attractive. And I'm not saying that they all feel that way, because there's a lot of very feminine, very sexy, and very beautiful black women, dark-skinned women with high self-esteem. So I'm not saying that's true across the board, but I do believe that that plays a part in it. So they're saying that you're not attractive. They're saying you're not feminine. They're saying that nobody wants you. And even if you're going to try, they're not going to want to marry you anyway. So you're not going to have a husband. I think a lot of young black women, when they look at this abuse in the media, now I agree that it's white supremacy. I'm not blaming black men. But white supremacy is so refined, they put a black male face on black female degradation. They watch these videos and stuff where they're being... I heard this one young lady say, why should I be a bitch? Why should I be with a black man if he's calling me bitches and hoes? Now, of course, she didn't understand that that's the media. But my point is, most of these young women don't understand that that the white supremacy system has put a black male face on their degradation. So some of it is a desire to disconnect from black men because of the perception of disrespect. So, a lot of this, I think, plays into it. That's why I call them situational lesbians, because if they had grown up in a different situation, my bet is 90% of them that are engaging in homosexual behavior would not be doing it. And I truly believe that the vast majority of black women that are engaging in homosexual activities are doing it because they're trying to adapt to some perception that this is probably better and healthier and safer psychologically than the heterosexual activity would be. And one more thing, the AIDS, HIV. Again, the white supremacy system has put a black male face on HIV, on black women dying, on black women getting infected. So I'm saying that a lot of this is generated by the perception, by the false perceptions of the white supremacy system to divide and conquer the black male and female. But unfortunately, people are emotional creatures. And so the logic doesn't rule. The emotions rule. And so, a lot of this negativity is being fed at us is manifesting itself in sexual behavior.
When you say, and I never heard that term, that's a great term, by the way, situational lesbianism. I question how much of a because see, I've been around them in different environments that I've worked in. I worked in a call center at one time where, predominantly females, predominantly black females, if you live in an urban area. And so, I saw a lot of that going on. But so I can talk to anybody. I love to talk to people because it's just how I get information. If I want to know something, I ask them. But just hearing them and their conversation and how they have sex. Now, I question a female, how much of a lesbian are you if your partner is strapping on a fake penis? You see what I'm saying? That don't make sense to me.
You would think that, and you know what? A lot of them, quiet as is kept, a lot of them bounce back and forth between male and female. I think, like I said, I do not believe the vast majority. And I'm sure that there are some who, for whatever reason, regardless of the circumstances, might go that way, and I can't explain what that is. But I think the vast majority of black females who are engaging in homosexual activity today are doing it because of a perception, not the true sexual nature, not their sexuality that they were born with. I believe that their sexuality has been corrupted. And, it's really sad, but it's something that, honestly, I kind of predicted would happen when I saw the continued increased degradation of black women in the media, and when I saw they were putting a black male face on it. I just knew that it was going to result in more homosexuality. And also think about this one other thing. The media perception that a lot of black men are on the DL and don't want women. See, all this works against black female confidence. And as a black female, and I'm not dark-skinned, there are times when I question, when I'm meeting a black man or for the first time or something, there's times that I question, does he really want a black woman? I question that. I never would have questioned that 20 years ago or 10 years ago, but I question it now. When I meet somebody, I question, do they really want a black female? Because even though I might be a little less confused than I was 10 years ago, the perception is so relentless and so mind-numbing and ego-crushing that even when you know it's a falsely manufactured perception, it still gets into your psyche. And I've said when I was a younger woman, I actually said this, I said, to just start dealing with women. Now, I didn't because I didn't want to, but I said it because I felt so devalued in the relationships that I had. And so I kind of said it in a way of revenge. I wouldn't be surprised if some of it's revenge. Like, look at me now. I don't want you either. I just want women. I don't want no man. So it's kind of like a tit for tat to some degree. They won't admit that, but I do believe to some degree it's fostered to some degree in some women as revenge. Now, I can't trust you. Now you can't trust me. Maybe I'll be with a woman tonight. Or just the simple fact that you can't reject me because I'm rejecting you first. And it's kind of like, and we have this in the book number 2, about the tyranny of men. And what I simply meant by that was the homosexual reaction can be an attempt to escape the tyranny of male validation, the tyranny, am I light enough? Am I pretty enough? Is my hair long enough? Am I sexy enough? Am I this? Am I that? That stuff drives women crazy. That's why you see all the crazy weaves and the wigs and us wearing high heels in 10-degree weather and short skirts and uncomfortable clothing and spending hundreds of dollars on makeup and cosmetics and all this other stuff because it's driven us crazy trying to be attractive, being certain in our psyche that we're not attractive. So I think a lot of it is revenge, kind of like, well, you don't want me? I'm convinced of that. Well, guess what? I don't want you either. You can't hurt me anymore because I don't make myself available to you anymore. And I think that that's a major driving emotion in a lot of the homosexuality. How can you hurt me when I don't want you? How can you reject me when I'm rejecting you first? How can you say I'm unattractive or undesirable when I'm not trying to get with you in the first place? So I have cautioned many young brothers. I said, this is not conducive to your survival or my survival. Do not let the white man encourage you to degrade your own women. And like I said, I'm not placing blame, and I'm placing blame. However, we got to be aware of our roles in the situation so that we can, because we're the only ones that are going to correct it, Scotty. You know, it doesn't, is the white man, the white supremacy system is responsible? That is foundation of understanding, but we are the ones that our behavior is going to have to change to fix this problem. So if we can't acknowledge that we have the power to fix the problem, or that we share a role in helping to sustain the problem, if we can't be honest enough to say, I have some culpability in this, we can't fix it.
My question is I have a daughter that's 13 years old. That's my baby girl, and she's on my Facebook friend list, as all my daughters is. And while I don't tell them, I do from time to time go through their Facebook profile, as I feel any responsible friend, parent, I should say, should. And you know, I've asked her about certain females that she. Even when I go over to her mom's house to pick her up and there's a female there, or when I'm dropping her off at home at her mother's house after school or whatnot, and I suspect that this friend of hers may be gay or something like that. And I come out and I ask her about it, and I'm just seeing it more and more, even at that young age. And I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you know, what we're talking about is actually bucking what is becoming the norm, and that's to acknowledge that homosexuality is incorrect. It's very difficult. I think I have a niece, and I'm not certain, but I think one of my nieces is engaging in homosexual activity. But she's a grown woman; she's like 40. And, you know, am I going to email her or call her up and tell her that, you know, are you engaging? No, I'm not going to do that. So I don't know. Only thing I know is...
Well, I've had that conversation.
All right, go ahead.
I've had that conversation with my daughter, and I've had her older sisters had that conversation with her, because it was one time that I was suspecting that she was leaning that way, because I was just seeing too many suspicious females at her mother's house, and I alerted her mother to that fact too. But it just really concerns me, not just for my own child, but for these children, period.
Yeah, it's real problematic, because if you could look at it, television has a huge role in developing the confidence of all people. Male, female, black, white, green, red, you know. I mean, if you look at Asian people, people are really suffering because of this white supremacy culture. So if people are going to keep watching TV, then maybe have a conversation about it. I'm not really sure, because I read somewhere there was a study, and not so much I believe every study, but it said the biggest influence of young people today was, I think their peers were number one. I think television media was number two. School or parents might have been number three, but parents were like number 3 or 4 on the list, behind peers and media. And what's really weird is I have been getting sexual clues from women, more hit on by women, more in the last maybe 2-3 years than I ever have in my entire life. And I'm troubled, because I don't want to respond negatively or hostilely, because I realize that they are victims. You know, I'm talking about black women. I don't really care what a white woman is feeling, but black women. And so it just hits me right in my heart, because I question how they got there. And then I think about the things that I've felt over the years, that I just really wanted to be free of the tyranny of trying to be attractive enough, trying to be pretty, trying to appeal to somebody, degrading myself to be attractive to somebody, allowing a lot of stuff to happen to me. And listen, I'm not saying that, what the choices I made is somebody else's fault. Men have been degraded too by women, did a lot of stupid things to attract a woman. I'm just talking about the relentless promotion of the inferiority of black women. Relentless. Study, black women have more herpes. Black women don't get picked on the dating sites. Black women are less attractive. watching this imagery of every time you see a black man on TV, he's not with one of us. All this stuff just gets into your head, and then, you know, and that's the purpose of it. Unfortunately, that's why they do it, because it works. But regarding a young daughter, I don't know if she's interested in reading or maybe even listening to... I'm sorry.
She reads a lot.
Okay. How old is she again, did you say?
13.
13, I thought you said 13. Yeah, she might be a little young to really get caught up in something like cows or something. Yeah, it's tough, you know. It's the only thing I would tell a father, just being a black female myself who didn't have a close relationship with my father. My father was in the home, but he really did, you know, he was like a lot of men of his generation. They didn't express affection because they had been so devastated emotionally themselves by their experiences. So the affection wasn't there, you know, there was no daddy's girls in my house. And I never really blamed my father because I knew he had been damaged because he had come up and not really known his father very well. And so, you know, it's just generational damage. But I would say just being a young woman myself, I think it would have helped a lot. You know, they got to make their own decisions, and all you can do is plant the seeds and hope that if they go astray, they'll get back on the path. And that does happen. But I would say whatever you can do to honestly and sincerely let her know that she's valuable. And I'm not saying you're not doing that, but let her know that she's valuable and beautiful. That's why we did the 4th book, The Beauty Con Game. We got a lot of pictures in this book of black females of all complexions with beautiful natural hairstyles. And so, you know, the whole message is, I would hope you get a copy of that book for her, seriously, because the book was written mainly with young people in mind. Because what we try to do is dispel the myths of the white supremacy beauty myths, all the lies. And then we talk about why the black woman is demonized, why the black man is you know, why we're being targeted to be inferior. And then we have these pictures in there, and I think the pictures could go a long way. And we have pictures of black male couples. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's the name of the book?
It's called The Beauty Con Game, and we just put it up on the website last night. So if you go to TrojanHorse1.com, we have the book. It's currently in print, being printed up, so we got advance price, you know, like what do you call it, pre-order price, 15% off, just $12.71, free shipping, and you know, you'll get a chance to read an excerpt, and also we put a video on there about a girl like me talking about how black children, and I think a lot of people have seen it, black children are taught from a very early age that to be brown is to be ugly. But yeah, it's on the website right now, and you know, so I think it's just important to build their self-esteem. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but speaking to what you said, I'm really thankful to my mother. See, I divorced while my children, and I have all girls. My first 2 are by my ex-wife, and then I have a third by another woman, and that's the young one I'm talking about. But I raised them with the help of my mom and my sister as I got custody, you know, a year or 2 after the divorce while they were like still in elementary school. And that's one thing that you said that my mom really impressed upon me. And I don't know if it was from her own experiences or from something she had learned or read, but she always told me to always, you know, hug my daughters, show, you know, appropriate affection to them, tell them they're pretty, open the door for them. And she just really, really drilled that into my head. And so I really appreciate, you know, that she did that.
You know, you are our first role model. You are the man that we pattern our behavior with men for the rest of our life. Is that father. And if the father is missing, what do you pattern your relationships on? If the father is distant and not affectionate or abusive or whatever, that's what you pattern your self-esteem on. This is the reflection. This is the first reflection you see of yourself as a female, is in the eyes of your father. And if he's missing, there is no reflection. Now, you can have substitutes. You can have male relatives. You can be one of those people who is just for whatever reason, have inner resourcefulness, where you just find a way to be able to. But I'm going to tell you something, honestly. Every black woman I know that has had good relationships and good marriages had a father. And I mean a good father. When I think of the girlfriends that I had that had, I'm thinking of 3 right now. One's been married now about 25 years, 30 years. The other one got married to a great guy about 4 years ago. Wonderful black man, great father. They all had fathers, and they all had fathers in the home, and they had good fathers. And I'm so proud to say I know black men right now who are great fathers. Great fathers. And I know my girlfriend's husband he's a great father to his daughter. He has a daughter and a son. And that is so important because you are the first reflection we have of our value as women. And so it's really important, the fathers out there, I don't care what you're going through with that woman. You picked her, okay? Now, you cannot let your children, I know it's not easy, and I know it can be difficult when you're in a relationship with somebody that's just for whatever reason you can't get along, but you gotta really not let your children suffer any more than necessary. And I had a male friend who was married, and he was really a pretty bad husband. And so it damaged his daughter because his daughter saw that he didn't respect the mother. So all I'm saying is the same thing is true when the mother doesn't respect the father. That damages the sons and the daughters. So it's no blame. I'm not casting any blame here. I'm just saying, your affection, they raise the standards when they have a good role model in the home. The girls raise the standards of what a man should be. Their perception of and you look at a lot of the girls and people jump on them and say, why they pick somebody like that? Why they having babies with a scrub? Why they dealing with a man in prison? That's not the point. The point is, what did they see growing up? What was the standard for male behavior growing up? What kind of men were they exposed to growing up? If everybody in that neighborhood's been to jail, why are you pretending that it's surprising that they would pick somebody that's been to jail? That's normal for them. So I'm just saying, it's really important that we build up these young, because they're raising the next generation. They're going to be the mothers of the next generation. If we don't see it no other way, they are the keepers of the next generation. And if we don't value them now, we shouldn't complain later.
Gus, you still there?
I can still hear you, Scotty. Are you on mute, Gus?
Yeah, so I have posted that video. That's a story that I'm gonna continue to follow. Cause I'm really just. I'm not gonna say that I'm disgusted with gay people. I try to respect all people as human beings. I just am disgusted how they just keep trying to compare their fight for rights to as if it's the same as what I have suffered as a black man and what my father has suffered and my grandfather and my great-great-grandfather. There is just really no comparison. And I just feel like, we gotta fight against it. And I know that we'll be, those who do speak out against it, you're gonna be accused of being homophobic or whatever. And I'm not shy to say that, I don't agree with that lifestyle. I find it personally disgusting, but I try not to judge the human. I try to look at them as for what they are, as damaged human beings. And I think it's important that we engage them as well, because when I'm looking at fighting against global white supremacy, I look at it in terms of the military. You know, recently there was a big thing in politics with Rick Santorum saying, you know, that making this big deal about women being close to the front lines in war. Well, a woman can fire a weapon. My 20-year-old daughter is a better shot than I am. Okay, and so I feel like the same thing with gay males. You know, if it ever comes down to, you know, ethnic cleansing in this country, if anybody was to try to attempt that, we're going to need all hands on deck.
That's
and
right.
That's not going to matter because we're all black.
Right. And you know what I found encouraging was the black male that was supposed to be on today's show. Even he recognizing, you know, because a lot of times black male homosexuals, or black homosexuals, period, I hear much from black female homosexuals, they wind up jumping, you know, in confusion, aligning themselves with the gay movement, or making gay or homosexuality a higher priority than racism. And so I really was encouraged to see a black male homosexual who understood that racism is part of the gay agenda, or the so-called homosexual agenda. So I agree with you. I think I look at it like drug addiction. I put it this way: I just look at it like I don't hate drug users, but I don't like your behavior. In other words, I'm oppose your behavior, because that's all homosexuality is. It's a behavior. They're trying to turn it into an ethnic group because they want to piggyback on the civil rights movement and make people feel that they're judging the humanity of a person, when in reality you're judging the behavior. I personally am not going to be made to feel guilty or ashamed for judging your behavior. Just like I would say I don't think alcoholism is good. I don't think drunk driving is good. I don't think drug addiction is good. That's the viewpoint that I have with homosexuality. I'm talking about your behavior. I'm not talking about your education. I'm not talking about your value as a human being. I'm not talking about anything else but your behavior. But see, they know that if they let it just be behavior driven, that they can't really defend it. But once they make it into an ethnic group, now they can compare with racism. They can compare with the civil rights struggle. See, they deliberately perverted and twisted that so it became almost an ethnic group. Because the behavior itself can always be criticized. And they don't want it to be behavior driven. They want it to be, you know, human rights driven. Listen, I don't care what you do in your bedroom. That does not mean if you shoot up heroin in your bedroom out of my eyesight that I have to agree with it when you walk out of that bedroom. I'm not going to break in that door and make you stop shooting heroin, but I don't have to agree with it. And that's the way I view homosexuality. So I'm past the point, I believe, I could be wrong, of allowing myself to feel, oh, well, am I being too harsh, or am I judging unfairly? You know, I'm past that point now. But at the same time, you know, I've got to be careful not to alienate or greater victimize a black person who has that inappropriate anti-sex behavior. I don't want to, like you say, you know, I don't want to be alienated from them either, because I agree with you. I think we're going to need all the help we can get. And I really think that it's possible that those people who might be conflicted could possibly re-examine their behavior. I mean, the ones that aren't die-hard, I'm homosexual to the end type of person, who knows? They may take a different view and decide that racism deserves a priority over homosexuality.
Watch that word fair. The two other folks that,
did I say fair?
Unfairly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks for the heads up.
Negrito's Way and the caller in California, your line should be open, and I'll get the caller in New York next.
Good evening, Gus.
Evening.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, I had a question. Has anyone heard anything further from Rowan Martin? Has he been on any appearance on any TV or written any articles or anything at all? Or has anyone heard of him lately?
I saw that he apologized. He issued an apology for his tweets. He supposedly met with the suspected racists at GLAAD. And I saw reports where they said they had a productive meeting, or I'm paraphrasing, they had a productive meeting or what have you. Has anybody seen anything else?
But he's not like back on on another station or maybe a local station somewhere Has anyone seen them on TV lately? Anything like that? Besides seeing, if he's not seeing them, maybe it's somewhere else. I don't know. Or radio or something like that.
Isn't his show on TV One?
Yeah, I don't get TV One, so I don't know. I mean, if he's on T1, then that's not good for him, because it's always good to have your own media where you can always go to your own. But they're probably under tremendous pressure because of that. I don't know.
I'm just checking his website to see if there are any updates.
How is it that homosexuality hit Africa? How did Africans start turning to homosexuality? If we say that this is like some sort of biological or it's because the breakdown of the relationship, I don't think there's any shortage of black male or female in Africa, so how would what would be their reason for them to get involved in this lifestyle? Like South Africa and the other country that was trying to fight it.
I could share something with you that one of the listeners shared with me. He's over in the UK, I believe. He travels all over, and he said that he travels to Africa everywhere, and he said that the white supremacists have really destroyed a lot of the relationships between the African males and females. You know, they've got, I believe it's the goons that work on behalf of the CIA, the Europeans, the white supremacists that are conducting these rapes, these massive rapes against black females, African females in Africa. So there's a lot of manufactured conflict between black males and black females over there because of their inability to protect themselves and each other. And he was saying that a lot of the African people that he has met that live in the UK, that a lot of the females now, the African females, stay away from black males because they said that the black males didn't protect them. You know, in Africa, they didn't protect them. And so a lot of the black males over there, they're also dealing with white females. So I think wherever you look and you see this homosexual agenda being played out, all you have to do is look a little further back and you're going to see the hands of white people and all of the dysfunction and misery and destruction of black-female relationships. You're going to see their hand in everything, because before Europeans came along, they didn't have these problems. Also, they've been threatening to cut off aid. I mean, I just think the Western media, the influence of Western media over there in Africa, you know, as well as the deliberate conflict that's created between the African male and female, I think plays a big part in it.
I think like Winnie Mandela tried to fight against it a lot. I think she still does. Like she tried to discourage Europeans to come to her area, you know, in Mugabe. That's as close as you're going to get, I guess. I don't know any others at this time.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I'm done.
I was going to say, I think that, you know, I'm not in a position to speak, but I personally think that African nations would be so much better off in just saying, listen, we'll just do what we have to do. Forget your aid. Don't bring your doctors over there. Don't send your teams over there. Don't give us any aid. Don't give us anything. I think they would be immensely better off, because it's not only a problem of disease and conflict and stolen resources. It's a psychological warfare on them to make them think they need white people. So I think that if they threaten to cut off aid because they won't allow the homosexual agenda to run rampant in their country, I think they should just say, okay, cut your damn aid off. Cut it off. Because when you take money from the devil, you got to dance to his music. And you'll find that with Roland Martin and all these black people who are so, you know, we're all reliant on white people for our income, but I think when you become ambitious, you really are going to be asked to dance with the devil. You know, when you really say, I really got to stay on, you know, I really want this job, I really want to keep this particular job, and they're going to ask you to pay a price. So I'm not blaming them for being in that position. I'm simply saying that when you take the white people's money, and we all do, it just, so I'm just saying, if you're in a position where you don't have to take their money, and I don't know who on the planet is really in that position, so I don't know, because I take their money too.
Yeah, well, they're doing like all sorts of weird stuff too, in when you go down, like up and down in the Caribbean and the Bahamas area, they have like all sorts of weird things going on that never used to be there. Let's say like 20 years ago or so. You know.
And you got to remember too, they're molesting the heck out of our children. They're in Africa raping our children. They're in the Caribbean raping our children. When I listened to Gus's show program on about what's his name, Jeffrey Dahmer, and the white male author, I finally got a confirmation, at least a confirmation from somebody in the media, that the boys were black in that Penn State, that Sandusky scandal. They were black, and we always suspected it, but I had not heard it confirmed from somebody who had actually investigated it. So what happens to these black boys all over the world who are being raped by these white males all over the world? Perhaps that accounts for some of the homosexuality we see today.
Yeah, well, and the sad part about it too is that the black family is in so disarray that you can't help it. You can't help each other anywhere, or very few of us can. You know, they can pretty much move the black children anywhere, and a lot of times they go into a lot of these white families all over the world.
Right. Or we go into these schools, or in some athletic association, or some underprivileged foundation. You know, but I think a lot of the reason we can't protect our children is we don't know they need protecting. We don't know that I'm sure the parents that Sandusky was in contact, you know, the children that were in contact with Sandusky, I'm sure the vast majority of those black parents didn't know he was raping them. So we don't even know it's a problem. That's why I think this topic is so important, and why it is, because it's a global campaign to destroy the black man. That's just the way I see it now. It's a global campaign to destroy the black man and provide sexual access to the homosexual white man.
Well, he has it all over the world, so.
But he wants everybody. He wants access to everybody. There's never enough. If there was a new...
if there's any...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. That's all right.
No, do you know if there's any resistance in Africa, any specific groups that are trying to not have this in their country or area or something like that?
I have sound clip on that one. This is the president of Uganda. You can hear directly from him.
The difference between Africa and Western Europe is on the promotion of homosexuality, as if it is something good and so on and so forth. What happened in our traditional society is that the homosexuals will be known, it will not be approved, but it will be ignored, and it will be their private issue.
Well, it obviously it hasn't been ignored, has it? I mean, we've had gay activists who've been murdered. Just last year, we saw a leading gay activist murdered in your country. We now have a parliament which is considering new legislation which would massively increase the punishments for homosexuality, from up to 14 years in prison to a new punishment of life in prison. What is your view as president of that proposal?
My view is that I do not support promotion of homosexuality, but I do not support persecution or discrimination of homosexuals as our society has always done. We never discriminated them. We never marginalize them or discriminate against them.
But Mr. President,
what people resent is promotion.
If the Parliament passes this legislation pushing for life imprisonment for homosexuality, will you block that legislation?
It will depend what the life sentence is for. Is it for promotion, for instance, recruiting young children into that practice by offering money? That's where the problem is. Inducement, manipulating, using money which they collect from the West. That's what I would also not like.
You yourself said just a couple of years ago, you said gay relationships are against God's will. You clearly believe there is a religious as well as a legislative and political need to take action against homosexuality.
Well, it is true that God cannot, it must be, I have not studied the science of how people become homosexuals, but certainly the normal way is to be heterosexual, because that's what nature created us for. But maybe there are some exceptions for some good scientific reasons. If they are there, our culture is keep your private life to yourself, do not impose it on others, do not promote it, just keep your own confidential sexual life to yourself.
A final thought on this. Barack Obama, for one, but other Western leaders as well, have said that they will tie future aid and development funding in a host of countries, including yours, to what they see on the human rights front, but particularly on these gender and sexual identity issues. How do you feel about that?
That will be their biggest mistake, because they should be very careful about Black Africa. Black Africa are humble people. We never impose our views on anybody else. We are not like Europeans or like Arabs who want to impose their views. I normally tell people that when I hear Arabs talking of haram, that's something which is haram. I always tell them that my list of haram is much longer than that one of the Arabs. I don't eat fish because I call it snake. I don't eat chicken because I think if you eat chicken you will be unstable. I don't eat pigs. I don't eat very many of those things which you people you eat. Even when I come here I have a problem of what to eat. But I keep this to myself. This is the difference with the black people.
Ugandan President Museveni, hope I'm saying his name correctly, giving his views on so-called homosexual activity. President of Uganda. I know Robert Mugabe, President of Zimbabwe, has also been very vocal in his opposition to this misbehavior, so-called homosexual activity. Those are two of the more vocal black people that I've heard who have spoken out against this, representing their different so-called countries in the continent of Africa.
No, you need to send money to those organizations, to them, because you don't want this kind of lifestyle to spread any further. And it's unfortunate that we as black people are in this situation where you can be told just about anything, because by and large, it seems like most black folks still wants to be accepted, and they can't stand not being accepted by their quote white counterparts. If they were more concerned about being accepted by their own, they would have a much better life, and probably certainly a lot of our situations would be solved. But as long as they're looking for white people to accept them, as long as they're looking for white people to get aid from them, we're always going to be in this situation where they're always going to dictate to you what is right and what is wrong in their own eyes, and you have to go along and accept it.
unless folks had other comments they wanted to get in on that specific clip, the caller, I know you also asked about Roland Martin. He has a video that's on his blog site that he released just in the past week, talking about the discussion that he had with the racist suspects at GLAAD. I can play that as well and then get the caller from New York, unless anyone else had comments they wanted to get in about what the president of Uganda had to say.
Yeah, Gus, I'd like to just share with you this. We had started the research already on the book on homosexuality, and there was a chart of countries where homosexuality is illegal, and they've got about 25 African nations, some Asia Pacific nations, Middle Eastern nations, Barbados in the Americas, Puerto Rico, and only one country in Europe. So when the caller asked, Africa's position on homosexuality, there are more African nations on the planet where homosexuality is illegal than anywhere else in the world. If you add them all up together, pretty much there's more in the African and the Caribbean countries than the rest of the world put together in terms of just nations. So I would say African people are very strongly opposed to homosexuality in general.
Yeah, but as we see, they're slowly but surely trying to break that now.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I just want. I was having a conversation a few months ago with a white person, and I was saying something about the whole these arguments that homosexuality is natural and it's found in all these species and and everything. And I was thinking about he lent me this book on HAARP, which is a high altitude auroral radiation. I forget, but some high tech, super high tech atmosphere changing kind of machines, and it's all these things that are not just in not just the chemicals and the plastics, but also these massive technological these things that spin hundreds of miles of tubing, all this huge gravity forces, all these just these things that are changing the nature of the molecules on our planet, and these they always talk about gay freaking what are they called, dolphins, but these dolphins, some of them are trying to have sex with each other in their blowholes, they just lack this, they're going crazy, and from what I see, from what I understand, the whole, I don't know, it's we don't have the scientists to back us up, so all this melanin stuff is kind of hearsay, and it's kind of still in the early phases of development, as far as understanding, for mainstream black people. But I think it just lends to the whole concept of that we weren't put on this earth to be gay. We weren't put on this earth to be having sex with each other for no reason, or calling it sex, and it's just manipulation. It's very interesting. I'm gonna keep my eyes open.
I'll get New York. I'll get Roland Martin so we can hear what he had to say about his meeting with GLAAD. This is just from a couple days ago. Racist white supremacists at work, I suspect. This is Roland Martin.
Now it's time for my perspective. In his famous I Have a Dream speech at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28, 1963, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of a table of brotherhood where people from different backgrounds could sit down, break bread, and discuss their differences, all in a hope to get to know one another better. Well, this week in Los Angeles, I sat down with Herndon Craddock, Senior Director of Programs and Communications with GLAAD, to discuss the recent tweets that I sent out on Super Bowl Sunday. GLAAD had previously expressed that my tweets were homophobic and called for violence against gays and lesbians. As I said that night on Twitter, as well as to Herndon directly, that was not the case, and in no way would I even suggest such a thing. I indicated that I would meet with GLAAD, and they likewise said they wanted to meet with me, and so we did. Over breakfast for over 90 minutes, Herndon shared his thoughts with regards to my tweets and why he deemed them offensive to the LGBT community, and I reiterated my apology that if anyone who construed my comment as being anti-gay or homophobic or advancing violence, that was not my intent, and for that I was truly sorry. It was a discussion that touched on many other areas, and as GLAAD expressed in a statement afterwards, and a sentiment with which I concur, both parties came away with a better understanding of one another and look forward to continuing this dialogue. Now, some might say this is just semantics, but really it isn't. When anyone has a disagreement, whether public or private, there should be a call to sit down and sort it out, as opposed to both backing into corners, ratcheting up the noise to the point where no one hears one another. That benefits no one. Now, do we agree on all issues? No. But ironically, I have historically supported many of the issues important to the GLAAD agenda, such as ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, gay adoption, and including gays and hate crimes laws. Those, folks, are facts. But it is only through dialogue do we get an opportunity to see each other's perspective and learn what it is like to walk in that person's shoes. So what now? Well, first, it is important to understand that I operate in the role of a journalist, not an activist, one who is used to participating in and leading the difficult discussions, whether on TV, radio, in print, or online. As I said to Herndon, on this show, we speak to the African American community. And as I've said on many occasions, the black community should and must discuss the issues involving sexual orientation, whether it's personal, with regards to the church, and our families, or our schools. Now, I've been a vocal opponent of bullying, whether that involves heterosexuals or gay youth. Now, have we had these discussions? Yes. Will we continue to have these discussions? No doubt. My goal as host and managing editor of Washington Watch is to shine a light on the issues and then peel back the complex layers so we all have a much better understanding. Now, if you're gay or straight, your voice matters. If you're a pastor or activist, your voice matters. I have no plan to abandon my goal as a truth teller on a variety of issues, and yes, that includes those that may be on the LGBT agenda. I am confident that this table can serve as an example of Dr. King's Table of Brotherhood, and I and this excellent team will do all we can to advance the dialogue so we all can learn, grow, and prosper together. That's my perspective. What's yours?
Context of white supremacy. Caller in New York, your line is open as well.
Good evening. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Pretty interesting conversation tonight. I wanted to go back a bit to something that Scotty Reed was talking about, particularly about the situation with his daughters and just in general for parents that are raising daughters, and it is very difficult today. Listening to some of the comments that Pam made and talking about some of her frustrations at some point, even having the thought in her mind, the consideration in her mind of wanting to give up as a result of, the difficulties she faced with males. Raising female daughters today is very difficult. I have an 11-year-old, and every year there's an organization in New York, Real Dads Network. I do the marketing for them, and every year they throw an annual father-daughter dance. And I take my daughter to that. This is about the 4th year that we've went. she really appreciates that. I don't know if that's something that's in the city where Scotty Reed is in Charlotte. I know they're doing them in more cities around the country. I encourage other listeners out there, if they don't have an event like that, to pull together their resources and begin doing a father-daughter dance, because it is very, very impactful in a young female's life. I have a 2-month-old now, daughter, and what we took from the movie The Help, when we looked at the maid who was reinforcing that white child on a day-to-day basis, we took that example and recognized that we, as black parents, need to say that to our daughter. So on a day-to-day basis, let's say if your daughter's name was Justice, if you have a 2-parent household or a 1-parent household, you look at your child and say, Justice is beautiful, and kiss her, and then go, beautiful Justice, and then Justice is special, kiss her, special Justice. And I mean, if it's a father on one side and a mother on the other side, it really does a lot in terms of reinforcing the self-esteem in that young black female child growing up. And I just think that it's very, very important and very vital that individuals get involved in the role that they play in the lives of their children, because oftentimes we become so focused on the fight against this global system of racism, white supremacy, that we lose sight of the importance of affirming the children that are in our household, and even those who aren't in our household, who are in our neighborhoods, who are in our family, or those who we come into contact with, because I see a lot of older black people behaving like Uncle Ruckus when it comes to young people, and it's really sad. But that was what I wanted to add from earlier.
Academy Award nominee, The Help. Oscars, I believe, are tomorrow. Get to find out how many Oscars, if any, The Help will secure. White people intend to get maximum use out of that film. Racist propaganda. They superimposed the face of 3 black males on the bodies of the 3 maids. I put it on my Facebook page. They put Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith, these 3 black males. They put their faces on the bodies of the 3 black female maids for the poster for the film The Help. This was on national television just 2 days ago. Racists getting maximum use out of that film, and it's the same homosexual agenda. Effeminize as many black males as possible, make that a joke, make it funny so that we can get more and more black people accepting of homosexual, anti-sexual behavior, and black males especially not functioning like men.
Could I piggyback on that? It's almost like another coin. The black men sometimes are, I think, being programmed to feel that being a homosexual black male or a non-masculine black male or man is dangerous. And so it's almost like, again, that dichotomy, that yin-yang. Black men are being encouraged to think it's safer to not be a strong black man, and black women are being encouraged or programmed to think it's safer to be a strong black woman. So it's like black women's safety lies in being more masculine, black men's safety lies in being more feminine. I mean, this is just totally twisted. It should be the other way around.
Well, I'd like to add to that. This individual is a victim, but this individual is a spokesperson for this agenda, and that would be the rapper Nicki Minaj. She is very adamant about promoting that agenda. In fact, I'll read a bit from her website. It says, "We caught up with the femme rapper Nicki Minaj at the American Music Awards Sunday, and since the glam gal has drummed up more attention to the hip-hop LGBT community than any act of late, we had to ask if she thought we'd see a homolicious rapper on the scene anytime soon. Of course, Nicki gushed to us. So what do we have to do? That is, to make it okay to spit some rhymes about pimping a penis. I think we have to be open-minded," said Nicki, who left tongues wagging with her seemingly ambiguous sexuality. She talks about smooching bad bitches and giving love to fellas, but never clarifying exactly which way she swings. You know, we have to do what we have to do and not worry about what they accept. At least we've got gals like Nicki to help get the closet door open, even if it's just an itty-bitty bit. As she would say, that's fetch, don't you think? And, as a father of female daughters, Nicki Minaj is very, very influential in the life of young black girls. And many older black people are really missing the boat on not being diligent and being mindful of the music and the entertainment that a lot of young black girls are listening to and engaging in. And she is a strong advocate for pushing that agenda, for pushing the agenda of black females being very white identified. You very seldomly see Nicki Minaj without a blonde wig or a red wig or something of that nature, and she's very adamant about pushing, plastic surgery and all these other things, and I recognize that she is a victim, but that does not excuse the fact that she is probably one of the most dangerous victims that we have today, in my opinion.
I would agree with that, she is.
Yeah, I didn't even know who she was, but I knew her name. I mean, her name is all over the place.
I mean, they have given her all sorts of endorsement deals for makeup, hair products, clothing lines. In fact, I believe I saw something earlier today. I believe her and Lil Wayne or someone else she's affiliated with have a clothing line called Black Ugly or Black and Ugly.
What?
Yeah, you could Google it. It's called Black and Ugly or Black Ugly.
Goodness.
Anything that's degrading towards black people's selves.
Yeah. And, she just had out a record, or it's still out now. They banned it from the airwaves, Stupid Ho, in which she's degrading Lil' Kim, who's her nemesis. And the hook is calling her stupid hoe, and my daughter brought this to my attention. She was like, "Dad, do you know Nicki Minaj is calling Lil' Kim a stupid hoe on the video?" And I'm like, "What?" And you just think about so many young, impressionable black girls at home in the afternoon. They're not supervised. They're watching 106 in Park and other videos, or they're just on YouTube on their smartphones, and they're watching this video, stupid hoe. I mean, society says that about black women in general, but now you have a black woman saying that about another black woman. You're a stupid hoe.
All I can say is we got a lot of work ahead of us. We got a lot of work to do.
It's too overwhelming, though.
Yeah, it is. But it's got to be done.
I mean, for me, when I come across individuals that are participating in that agenda, I mean, when I was less codified, I would, be very vocal in terms of, I'm not an advocate of that behavior, but I recognize that it was also derailing my efforts in terms of reaching young people. So I had to become more strategic in the way in which I deal with those individuals, because I'm a person that always talks about black love. I don't want to talk about any other to the Confederate.
Getting some
I don't want to talk about anything else other than black love. Was there something being said?
Yeah, it was just some background interference.
Okay. So what I encounter is whenever I have T-shirts that say I love black people and support black love and things of that nature, and I even posted a link for Pam's book on my Facebook page, and I always get this pushback from black people saying, you're promoting hate. And I'm always surprised with that, because I've never made any mention of, bashing people who are in, those so-called interracial relationships or same-gender couplings or whatever. I'm talking about support and promote black love, and it's always black people who give me the most amount of difficulty. So I start saying to them when they accuse me of being homophobic or whatever, I tell them that they're practicing practicing black heterophobia, and it shuts them down. But I also say to them that, my interest is in a black man loving a black woman, raising black children. I don't have time to discuss any so-called interracial relationships, any same-gender couplings. That's not my area of expertise or interest. There are more than enough individuals who are pursuing that, and I'm not going to discuss it. I'm not going to entertain it. It's not anything that I want to have any discussion about whatsoever. I recently facilitated a talk at a church talking about communication strategies to improve the communication between black men and women. And I mean, it was a really constructive talk. And right towards the end, as we were closing out, some black woman says, well, it was really good to hear all the ideas, and people were talking about different ways to talk, but not that I'm participating in this, but I want us to be mindful that, love knows no color, and there may be some people who may be involved in situations where they're not in love with or pursuing love with a black man or a black woman, and we need to be mindful of that as well. And everyone in the room was like looking at her like, why are you even saying that? And it's so, our self-hatred and anti-blackness is so deep with us that we can't even have a conversation without us discussing those same gender couplings or those so-called interracial tragic arrangements. We can't do it. It's crazy. It drives me crazy at times.
That white chip, the white chip kicks in, and the white traffic cop in our brain takes over. So when they hear that pro-black rhetoric, that white chip kicks in just like a computer's program. We're talking about a computer program where certain words or certain phrases, certain concepts triggers that Pavlov's dog, that computer chip, and it activates. And I think it's really, I'm not sure of the young lady's name that has the deactivating the white chip, but she's absolutely right. It's like a computer chip that's programmed to respond when it hears certain commands. And I believe we can be deprogrammed, and I keep that in mind, because if I don't, then I'll become too discouraged, because you're right. It's the anti-blackness and the white identification is off the chain. One of the co-authors, he used to blog on Black Planet, and he used to blog on Black Voices, and he got so disgusted because he was a black male trying to encourage and trying to uplift black women, and he would be attacked sometimes by black women. And, you know, they would ignore the posts that he made that were, that were showing appreciation or encouragement. You know what I think he told me one time, one lady sent it to him and said, yeah, that's all good and fine, but she didn't believe him. She didn't believe he was sincere. She didn't believe that a black man could come on the internet and be so positive toward black women. And he just found a lot of times the stuff that he thought would really draw black women to his post to read it, a lot of times they weren't even interested. And black people, like you said, they, some, embraced it, but a lot would attack him. He was getting attacked by black males and females. And I think he finally just stopped blogging on there because it just, you can really get discouraged. But I think he was shocked. I think he said he was shocked to see that black women were rejecting the message of embracing and respecting and uplifting black women. Black women were rejecting it. Yet, when you look at those blogs, all you see is black women complaining about black men not respecting them. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sadly, I encounter things of that nature as well. There was a couple, they were supposed to be the longest married couple in the United States. I think they were married 89 years. They were 100 plus years old, and they were a black couple down in North or South Carolina. And I remember I posted their photo and I wrote a blog about them, and I was like, Black Love Indoors. And the amount of negative comments that I got from black women or victims was really overwhelming to me. When I think about on a day-to-day basis, if I'm just on the subway here in New York with my wife who has natural hair, has her hair natural, and she has her hair in locks, when we'll be on the subway or wherever, I'm always touching her hair, playing in her hair. And one day I'm touching her hair, and I turn around and I see these three black women who, they had their hair processed. And if you would have seen the look on their face for me touching a black woman's natural hair, it was as if they wanted to kill me.
Wow. How do we combat this?
I think that it has to start with the person in the mirror first and foremost. I mean, it's a damage that's just so deep. But I think that you have to approach it like marketing. The white team has outmarketed us, and they have introduced a bootleg brand that everybody thinks is black people, and that bootleg black brand, unfortunately, is the nigger brand. And the so-called self-identified nigger or whatever, they're victims, but they have a phenomenal street team. And in order for us to combat it, we're going to have to counter that with some strong promotion. Boots have got to be on the ground. We have to start a non-violence movement of champion blackness. And I'm not talking about just from the perspective of talking about the black power rhetoric, because, we know that a lot of our people, rightfully so, are terrified of white people. I think that when you approach the problem from the perspective of talking about us dealing with our low self-esteem and us dealing with black love as a cure to that low self-esteem, I think that that's probably the most constructive or productive way of us trying to, turn this situation around, because although folks will attack us for us talking about loving ourselves, it really is an argument or counter-argument that breaks down when any person has any degree of just, common sense looks at it and go, well, what do you mean that black people have a lot of nerve loving black people? So I think that it really has to begin there.
If I may
add, you can't fight a war with people that haven't even gone through basic training. I mean, they don't even know the basics of war. That's just not going to be successful.
If I may add, can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
If I may add, I agree with that, and I like the terminology that you're using, like marketing, like media marketing, and I think programs like this, other programs, I think we have to stay engaged in producing media, using the matrix terminology with the white chip and everything. Well, just think about how we are programmed, or black people are programmed to have the thoughts and the feelings that they have. It is primarily through media. So we have to produce media. If for those who may not have the wherewithal to become producers of media, then you have to support those that do. We have to create our own media, and we not only that, but like you said, we have to market it. I mean, even if it's like, if we know somebody or a coworker that we feel like, is truly, really brainwashed, then, you could download these shows, burn them on a CD, and give it to that person, and just, you ain't got to give them a long spiel, and just say, I think you might find this interesting. And maybe that might open up the dialogue, distributing DVDs, just doing whatever you can as an individual in this war. It takes us as individuals, but at the same time, we do have to have a strategy. And so I think, particularly this program and other programs and the stuff that Pam is doing, and a lot of other people I see on YouTube. I'm finding great channels on YouTube of people, conscious black people raising serious questions. And so I will have to, again, I have to keep reiterating Malcolm X. I mean, when I saw that video on YouTube of Malcolm X talking about the power of the media, I have never forgotten it. I have all his quotes on the media memorized, because I do believe that media is the most powerful entity on the face of the planet. And one of the ways that they're trying, that I'm noticing, that they try to, and I'm talking about white supremacy, tries to think for us, is that they will recruit certain black writers, certain black media producers, and even like you was talking about the elevation of Nicki Minaj. They will elevate those type of people. They will elevate, for example, there was a woman who attacked Cleo Manago, Irene, I can't remember her name, so I'm not even going to try, but I came across an article on Huffington Post, okay, and she was attacking Cleo Manago, talking about he's a black supremacist and saying all this and that. She was just using all kind of negative terminology for him. And so I reached out to her to invite her to my program to discuss it with Cleo Manago. I even enlisted the services of Cleo's publicist to try to facilitate this conversation, but the woman doesn't seem interested in having the conversation. She seems to me only interested in putting out white supremacist propaganda and confusing a whole lot of black folks. And so I think we have to keep doing what we're doing. I think, just keep doing what we're doing for the media producers and for those that support us. Keep doing that.
Irene Monroe.
I would agree, because I'm sorry, go ahead.
I believe that may be her name.
Irene Monroe, if you all want to check it out. Irene Monroe. Looks like she's a black female.
She is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's on. You can just Google her name, Irene Monroe. Put Cleo Manago and Irene Monroe, and it should pop up. That is all.
What I tell young people all the time is, the media tools that they have at their disposal are very powerful. If we could just reignite the spark that Public Enemy had in the youth consciousness in 1988, 89, 91, before they switched the channel and got everyone listening to NWA and realized that that was a concerted effort, that they recognized that the youth were waking up. You had the Native Tongues, you had just a lot of different artists that were talking about, poor righteous teachers, different artists that were really talking about the issues of the day. And what they did is they took Public Enemy's energy and niggerized it and gave us NWA. And I think that we have to, in a lot of ways, take that format and flip it again. If they've got the Rick Ross and all those other things, you're not going to attract young people by beating them over their heads with a hard message. But if you're going to attract any young people, you're going to have to use the same music, not go so heavy with the themes initially when you're trying to draw them in, and take programs like this, and maybe you can soundbite it, and, as Public Enemy would have spliced different portions, do it like that, and I think that it could start to turn the situation around. But there are powerful tools out there. We do have to create our own media and not just respond to their media, but create our own avenues of media.
I think it's also important. I think Pam asked about how to deal with this. I think Mr. Fuller touched on this, and it's incredibly important for a lot of different reasons. Mr. Fuller, when he says there's one race, the white race, and he says black people are not a race, and I think that concept, I don't think for all the people that are aware of Mr. Fuller's work, I don't think they grasp how important that is. I think, number one, it erodes the thought that it's possible for someone who is not white to be a racist. The only people who can practice racism are white people. You got to be a member of a race to practice racism. That's the only purpose. The only purpose to belonging to a race is to practice racism. I think the other part that is constructive about, and I think it's accurate, that more than anything, I think he's correct. The other part about really grasping that and keeping that in mind, you will not expect black people to be functioning as a race. When you see black people and all of the confusing things that we're doing and getting upset at people who are saying, black females and black males should try to have constructive, helpful relationships and love and take care of one another, and black people that is further evidence. We are not a race. White people have for centuries now been doing the work of practicing racism, white supremacy, and doing all the things you have to do to be a race. Just because you look similar or wear similar clothing, that does not make you a race. It takes a lot of work, effort, codifying behaviors. These are things that we're going to do in all areas of people activity, coordinating what we think, do, and say. And black people have not done that. And I think being honest about that so that we can alter our expectations of other people who are classified as black, I think that will go a long way to keeping us from being so demoralized and angry when we come in contact with black people who are very anti-black and who strongly oppose anything that looks like it is affirming of black people. Expect that. That we are not a race. We have been intensely victimized. So you can meet people where they are. Okay, I understand that. This is what has been done to us. And then you go about, okay, how do we go about trying to correct this? How do we go about getting material, media, books, whatever, to help this person become less confused so we can improve things? For me, that has been extremely helpful, recognizing what white supremacy has done to us and altering my expectations so that I'm not surprised when I see monstrous and monstrosity behavior from black people.
Another example, piggybacking on talking about the media, for example, and I posted this to our network and I didn't change it. I didn't particularly like the title because I think it was talking about the name of the video I found on YouTube, this YouTube channel that I subscribe to, Niggas in Shoes. And so it's just a guy, a black male, talking about, you know, the foolishness associated with black people sitting outside of a store camping out just to buy a pair of shoes. And then he talks about, you know, he's trying to be helpful, and he's talking about, you know, we got to do better as a people. We got to come together. We got to overcome all of this ignorance and stuff like that. And so I commented on his video, and he did respond back to me, and I was just, and this is something I learned from listening to the cows. Okay, one of the things I learned, I'm trying to get better at, is not blaming black people for their bad behavior and realizing that they have been programmed to act a certain way. And I pointed that out to him, and he seemed to agree. So, you know, it's just it's not so much as debating a person or getting angry with them, but, you know, just trying to, I guess, like you just said, Gus, meet them where they are. But I tried to just make him understand, and he agreed, the power of media. I'm like, you know, even the, what's her name? Bob Johnson's wife, I can't think of her first name, and she even said that she blames BET. Now, her and her husband founded BET for the rise of the HIV/AIDS epidemic among young black women because of the videos that they played on BET promoting promiscuous behavior. And so once you understand, you know, that when you look at all the things that S. Dot just talked about, you know, how they switched it from Public Enemy to NWA, then, you know, you understand why people behave the way they do. And I used to get angry. I used to get angry at them and stuff, and you know, I'm a very passionate person. Sometimes I may come across as being angry, but that's just me being passionate about what I'm speaking on. But, you know, I learned on the cows, and I'm still trying to deprogram myself from getting angry at these people and directing my anger towards them, and instead engaging them and asking them, well, you know, do you know why you're acting this way, or do you know why they act that way?
You know what helps me? That was a good point you made. What helps me is, you know, when I'm looking at a black person in the face, you know what I start to see? I start to see, particularly in black people who are maybe over 40, and it really helps to humanize them when I see them, and I think victimization. You know, like I was at work today, and one of the ladies, you know, she just had a nasty attitude. And, you know, I try to avoid conflict, particularly with black women, because it just seems too close to home. You know, it's like I'm looking at myself. So I just thought about her, and I just looked in her face, and I said, well, you know what? She's upset, and she got a bad attitude because there's a lot of mistreatment on my job. And so I said, you know what? It ain't even about me that she's trying to, you know, be disrespectful. It's about this job. It's about the fact that she feels trapped here just like I do. So I think it helps when you look somebody in the face and ignore what they're saying and what they're doing if you can, and just see victim. I see a lot of pain and mistreatment etched in black people's faces. And so at that moment, I feel kind of like a love for them, because I know that we share that common victimization. Now, sometimes you're going to get mad, you're going to be, you're going to feel what you feel, but I think it helps to see that person and put the face of a victim on them. That doesn't mean they're not responsible. It just means that we've been greatly victimized. And when you're looking at black people and talking to black people and listening to black people, you can see it in the faces, especially those who have been on the planet a while. You can see it. And I think that maybe that's the wisdom that Mr. Fuller and Dr. Welsing have. Because sometimes I think, well, how can they be so cool and calm? I know they've seen a lot, and they've had a lot done to them by other black people as well. And I said, I think it's that wisdom that perhaps that comes from having seen so much victimization. There's no way in the world that you're going to have the desire to create more victimization. That you're going to reserve your responsibility, put it where it belongs, and that's on white people. So maybe that's something that comes with wisdom, and hopefully, those of us that, we all getting older, we'll all get older and we'll get that wisdom. But a lot of times it's not even about you. It's about that victimization.
This will be my last comment. I'll mute. We have about 8 minutes left in the program. What Pam just said, I think, and it might be a synonym, wisdom, codification, they might be synonyms. I believe that is codification. I would say that's definitely, and it might be both for both Dr. Welsing and Mr. Fuller. Regardless of what that black person is doing, unless they're causing direct physical harm to you, major loss of property, we have got to get to a point where we are disciplined enough that we are not going to be acting as though black people are the problem. The problem is white people. And I know even for myself, it's hard when you have confused victims and they're saying things that don't make sense and attacking black people. I use an illustration from yesterday because I said this on the program. Destiny, black female, victim of racism. I felt a lot of white identification. She said she commended Tim Wise and talked about how great he is and her white friends and her white boyfriend that she had. Very tough for Gus to listen to that. But I think, and not just Gus, I think everybody on the program, Pam called into that program, Miss Zaina, she's one of the founders of the Deactivate the White Chip Project. She called in. I don't remember everybody, but it was several people that called in to ask questions. I think everybody was extremely courteous in the way that they engaged in the dialogue, the questions that they asked. No one called in, can't believe you said that, how dumb is that, and Tim Wise is a racist, and you hear what he said too? Nobody did that. Calm. Okay, I hear what you're saying. This is my view. I could be wrong. Being very patient, very compassionate. I think that is a major part of codification. And I know even for myself, it was hard to hear someone being very white identified, very victimized, and then come back and call a black person an Uncle Tom. Like, I had to really bite my tongue about saying that is codification. It really, if you're talking about being disciplined, a major part of being a disciplined counter-racist has got to be, I am not going to attack, name call, blame other black people. The problem is white people. That's not saying that I have to agree with every black person. That's not saying I have to endorse every black person, but I'm certainly not going to be yelling at them, blaming them, acting as though they are to blame the problem for what's happening on the planet. Major part of being disciplined, and I think that's going to be a major part of being more mature as black people as we attempt to solve this problem. And I will mute my line.
I wasn't sure if I had heard that right yesterday with that Tom comment. I'm glad you cleared that up because I was a little stupefied by that. But yeah, I just recently had a conversation with a black male I've known for my whole life, and I just kind of stated that the most I'm always talking about kind of issues related somewhat. I kind of just said like that I kind of thought there was something problematic about the so-called interracial kind of relationship thing, and it's just, it almost started a fight, but I kind of just allowed the person to kind of say all the things they decided to say all of a sudden, and kind of just, I guess it's you have to kind of treat each other with kitty gloves a little bit, give each other the benefit of the doubt. But yeah.
I would say that for me, this show in the last 3 years has been a phenomenal resource for me in terms of learning how to be more compassionate. I've always considered myself to be an advocate for black people, even in my years of intense confusion. In the last few years, I've had to learn to grow in my compassionate towards folks who claim to be so-called conscious, and that means different things to different people. I liken this church, for lack of a better example, I would liken this show to probably like a church support group for me, because just as when people go to church and they talk about, learning how to love other believers or whatever of that particular faith, this has enabled me to learn how to have compassion for other individuals who are victims, because there are some folks who claim to be conscious I have extreme struggles with, and I don't question their passion for, trying to do something to affect some change, but I oftentimes hear some things that are just downright nonsense, and this show has helped me a great deal, learning how to be compassionate and learning a degree of tolerance and some patience, and I'm thankful for the many calls that I've been on and spoken to Mr. Fuller. His resolve, his demeanor has helped me a great deal learn to improve in my temperament with folks and be more mindful of my words. Dr. Welsing has helped me incredibly in learning how to better formulate my ideas in terms of thinking about racism. And, just in general, even the discussions at the end of the shows like this have been great for me as well, because they've allowed me to be able to voice my opinion and hear feedback from other people. So I appreciate everyone that's on the line.
I'd like to second that.
To each other more often.
I'd like to second that. If it wasn't for you guys and Cows and Gus, I don't even think I would have been motivated to continue to, try to be involved in more books. I don't think it would have. I don't even think it would have happened. So, Dr. Wellesley, Mr. Fuller, I just totally co-sign on what you said.
Funny because like when this show is on, my wife gives me my time and she goes, "Oh, on your support group call," and we laugh about it and joke about it, but I actually realize that is in a lot of ways how this functions for me, because I am very committed to trying to help black people, and the only other person that I deal with on a day-to-day basis is her. So she hears me bounce a lot of my ideas off of her and sees, how frustrated I am at times. So I'm sure she's equally thankful for me to be able to have a support network to at least listen to other people and vent my ideas and frustrations and refine my response strategies for racism.
This is Scotty again. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Gus said about Destiny, the guest that was on the program, and how people responded to her and didn't come at her, you know, attacking her or attacking her viewpoints and stuff like that, because she's still very young, especially when you're dealing with a young victim like that. But at the same time, she was open to the information, you know, and I just think it's all in the presentation that when you come at somebody hard, even though you may be coming at them with truth, but if you come at them hard, or if you come at them in an insulting manner, that you're only exacerbating the problem. You're making it worse, because they're not going to absorb that information, because a natural reaction to anyone that's being attacked is to throw up your defense, to throw up a wall. And so the information that you're trying to get through to her, or the viewpoint that you would like her to consider, she's not even, or whoever is not going to consider it. You know, because I know of any time if anybody's yelling at me or anything like that, I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. I'm not even sticking around for you to abuse me in such a manner. I'm hanging up, or I'm hanging up on you, or whatever. You know, so I noticed that too, and it just made me feel good that this young lady was listening. She was taking it all in, and she said, well, you know, obviously, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, that, you know, you're not going to change my mind, but I'm going to visit the websites. I'm going to take all of this under consideration, and I'm going to think about it. And so what was done was a seed was planted in this young woman's mind, and hopefully it'll germinate, and others will come along in her life, and they'll water that seed that was planted in her mind when she was on the cows, and then hopefully she'll be less victimized. So I just wanted to offer my observation on that. Thank you.
Yeah, you are so right, because, you know, if we beat up on her, she's already been victimized. So, you know, what do you accomplish when you beat up on a victim? And I have to remind myself of that, because I can be pretty dogmatic and I can be pretty persistent, and so I have to pull up. And Kyle's really helps me to do that, because I know I'm being heard, so I have to try to be more thoughtful and more constructive, you know. So it's really, I found that I don't get a lot of good results sometimes because I'm too heavy-handed, and I'm literally trying to force my opinion on somebody. And they've had enough people forcing their opinions on them. They've had enough people beating up on them and pushing them around. And here I come talking about liberation, and I'm pushing them around. So it's really hard, you know. It's like you got a new religion and you trying to make people see the light, but you really gotta, try to respect people's rights to. Respect their right to decide what they want to believe. You know, so it's a struggle. I still struggle with that.
I have a question. My question is, again, I'm a victim. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to shed some of my old habits, or I'm trying to deprogram myself in many areas. But in terms of attacking other black people, I draw the line at politicians. I haven't gotten there yet. I feel like that if you are a black person and you're in a position of power and you're abusing that position of power, especially to harm other black people, I feel obligated that I must speak out on it. Does not mean that I hate them personally, but I also feel an obligation to make people aware of what's really going on. Because I'm going to be honest with you, today I was just really, really, really angry. I saw a post on Facebook from an African produced news online newsletter or whatever it was, website, and when I saw that mass graves full of black bodies in Libya, and then I saw that video of these black Libyans with their hands tied behind their backs in what looked like to me a pen that you put animals in, and these Arabs standing around them and calling them dogs and sticking flags in their mouth and telling them to eat the flag. You know, I think it was the old flag of Libya under the Gaddafi government, and just really mistreating them and I'm not seeing anything on the news about it. And all I hear our government talk about, Barack Obama's administration through Hillary Clinton, is talking about what those people going through over there in Syria. When you bombed Libya, you created this situation and a circumstance for these black people to be abused, to be murdered, to be raped, and you do nothing about it. I'm sorry, I have to say something, and whether that can be considered as attacking another black person or not, then I'm guilty, because I feel I must speak out on such matters.
I just remember in those instances that there are no black people in power. There are black people who have the illusion of being in power, but at the end of the day, I recognize that they are, for lack of a better term, employees like anyone else. They're hired and they'll be fired. It's just as you may have a supervisor or a manager in your office or your workplace. That individual has been hired for a specific job and to play a certain role. And if that individual does not fulfill that role and their obligation in that position, that individual will be removed. I don't have the illusion that any black person who is in any selected, or as you may say, elected office has any power. So I don't delude myself. And I think that has helped me in terms of not being as boisterous as I once was, because I would really jump on the soapbox about different individuals who are in politics. But I think that coming to the realization that there are no black people in power, there are black people who are placed in positions to monitor or pretend that they're in power, I think that just having that perspective has helped me.
And I agree with that. I think somebody posted on my Facebook status page today that he is not the black president, he's the black puppet. Okay, and I do understand that there are powers behind the scene, but at the same time, because they are nameless, because they are faceless, well, they're not nameless and faceless to me, but nameless and faceless to the general population, then whoever that puppet is, whoever that public face is, then that is the reason that I focused on them, because that is who the masses understand to be in charge. But I agree with what you said. But I also think that public mass outrage at a certain situation, and if people in mass demand, not ask, but demand something be done about a situation, that they will do something, because they want us to be, let's say, civil or obedient, and they don't want us destroying things, and they want to keep us pacified, and so then they will address certain situations. But when I see that what's going on in Libya right now, again, I'm looking at this mass grave full of black bodies. Maybe I'm misdirecting my anger or whatever, but that is all I know how to do, is to speak out on it and urge people to call, write, because right now only Jesse Jackson Jr. is the only one talking about doing anything to alleviate the suffering of those black people in Libya right now. But your point is well taken. I will try to remember that.
Scotty, I think you speak for a lot of people, the frustration of watching of black people's faces on a lot of injustice. But the beauty of white supremacy refinement is, again, to keep us focused on those black. That's why they're there. And I totally understand it. I used to rail against Obama, and I still occasionally, say what I got to say. I try not to do it online, because I don't want to encourage that kind of thinking. But it's natural and normal to see black people in public positions and to seem to be cooperating and participating in genocide and degradation of black people and not want to have some kind of way of holding them accountable. But that's the beauty of white supremacy refinement, is to make black people mad at other black people, to make black people mad at other non-white people, you know. And so it's in a circle, and they keep us spinning around, and before you know it, you've forgotten all about the white people. So I had to remind myself, but them putting those black faces in public positions. Let me ask you this. Have anybody ever noticed that when you're watching a white politician or spokesperson talking, there's always a black person standing to the right of them, or it might be the left of them. There's always a black person standing either to the left or the right, not standing just behind them, but standing in view of the camera. They deliberately put those black faces out there, and we have to remind ourselves that it's still the refinement of white supremacy, that you got us being mad at other black people. But I feel you. I really do. And I struggle with it. That's why I try to keep it to myself, because it may not be correct, but, you know, I still have those feelings. But I try to remind myself also that the reason that I'm directing it at this black person is white people put them there for that very purpose.
I would give us a media segment to reinforce this. Good old ESPN and their segment with Stephen A. Smith this past week. White people, especially white people 2012, white people are very good at sticking a black person out front and knowing people are going to get angry because they've done all this bogus and incorrect stuff. They know people are going to be angry and justified to be angry, and we'll just make sure that we get 3 or 4 black people out front, and any rioting or anything that happens, bang, they will direct it at other black people, and we can sit back and crack up laughing. Like, especially with the President Obama situation, white people will clown so hard with this, it will be white people joining in with black people. No good, President Obama did this, and da-da-da-da-da, waiting for black people to get angry and fostering that. So that's why they have different black people. I'll say it this way. That's why you have different black people who are given a lot of airtime to talk bad about President Obama, and you won't criticize him, and da-da-da-da, and tons of it. Some black people, I feel like I don't see them on television unless they have something bad to say about President Obama, as if he is in charge. And I would just wrap up some of these same black people, if you're paying attention, black people that are on TV weekly to talk bad about President Obama. I don't ever remember seeing them on TV this much just to talk bad about any white person, much less Bush, either one, Clinton. I don't ever remember seeing these black people on TV or different news outlets this frequently just to talk bad about the president or any other white person. That, to me, white people are phenomenal at orchestrating, I think Mr. Fuller's term, racial showcasing. Make it seem that a black person has some power, that they are in charge. People will get angry. It will be mad at everyone except the people who are most to blame. Racist man, racist woman. They are for not disciplined. This, I think, for me, I could be wrong, but I think it goes back to being disciplined. The problem is white people. With that, sentence from anyone so we can wrap things up. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. A white person, back-to-back white people, Dr. Lisa Lindquist-Dorr. And Cleo Manago, he did contact me during the broadcast. He apologized to everyone for not making the broadcast. He said he had some difficulties, and he's requesting to reschedule for Monday. So as soon as we confirm that, he said he would be down to come on Monday evening to do the program we should have done today. So hopefully we will make that happen. And if so, then perhaps we'll have 2 programs on Monday. But at minimum, we'll be back tomorrow. Dr. Lisa Lindquist-Dorr. She'll be on the program, 8th area of people activity, sexual intercourse. Did anybody have a sentence they wanted to get in before we wrap things up? And the prayer, volunteers for the prayer, and anything else folks wanted to get in, like a last sentence before we conclude? Everybody's good? Right on. The program tomorrow, it was a rain date. I wanted to do the All-Star game because we did that last year, and I expect a lot of incorrect behavior because the whole basketball season has just been increasing amounts of white supremacy. Black males in dresses. They had a competition where Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley to see which one looked better in a dress. They asked viewers to use Twitter. I told you, Twitter is like the direct tool of racist man and racist woman. They wanted people to use Twitter to vote to see who looks better in a dress. And it's just been more and more of that. I put the photo on my Facebook page about the help where they had, again, their faces, these black males' faces, superimposed on the maids from the help, the black female maids in the help. More and more of this, and I suspect tomorrow during the All-Star game, I suspect you're going to see some black males kissing. I would put money on that, in fact. Black males kissing and or black males in a dress, just because it's been that all season long. If we have time, I'll see if we can check in. Maybe some people, I'm sure some people will be watching. Take notes of racist observations, incorrect behavior being promoted during the game. If you can take notes, we'll share those once we're done with our guest tomorrow, because I hoped we could just do the whole program and see what racist man and racist woman are up to at the All-Star game. But since we'll have a white person on the program, we can kind of make that extra credit for people to study. Did anyone have any, did anyone want to do the prayer to conclude the broadcast?
I will.
Groovy. We'll be back 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Sunday evening. Thank you, everybody, for supporting S. Thank you kindly, sir. Take it away.
Oh, Creator, great giver of liberation, we give thanks and honor for our master teachers, Neely Fuller Jr., Dr. Francis Cress-Welsing, and all of those who are continuing to fight to replace the global system of racism, white supremacy. We ask for your continued guidance in enabling each and every one of us as we awaken to consciousness, from being less confused to being compassionate towards those who still remain unconscious and confused. We ask for your continued blessings on each and every individual that is listening to this show. We ask that they be inspired to do something, to do anything, and to not remain docile and ineffective wherever they may be in life. All these things we ask as your sons and daughters. Ashe.
Ashe. Cows signing out. Thank you, everybody, for participating.